You better believe the mic is flipped. Hey, Sven! Hey!
Uh,
How's it going, everybody? Technical difficulties!
yeah. This is the I can give us this. It's just about as bearable to watch as any other WWE kickoff show for a pay-per-view. So.
Do you know? Before we even get into it, I will say that Raw and SmackDown, when it's concerned to watchable quality, allegedly the brass are well aware the program is unwatchable to anyone except hardcore viewers. They just don't care. They're making so much money that they must be doing something right.
But yes, welcome to our first ever live episode of Flip the Mic with myself, the Johnny Monkey.
And me, NVO, baby!
We decided, like WWE... Yep. like WWE, we've decided to do things live instead of pre-taped. I mean, we did have a WrestleMania show, and we did have Sven the Crusader involved. But there was a snag with Brock Lesnar's contract, and Sven ended up in a feud with Roman Reigns. And, well, you know what happens when you end up in a feud with Roman Reigns.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. That's fine. I'm sure the smart fans will get it. So, this is live, everybody. Welcome. Stuff will go wrong because it's live. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if Gail Kim rolls out the ring and just leaves the match. It's live, so welcome to the show.
Indeed.
Let's kick it off.
Indeed. And do you want to tell the viewers what our topics are in VL?
Yes, welcome to Flip the Mic podcast. This is Jonah Monkey, of course, as you said, and I'm MVO Gaming, baby. And tonight our topics are Lucha Underground Season 4, Crowd versus WWE. Who's to blame? My renewed interest in Impact Wrestling, believe it, believe that, as Roman Reigns would say, and SummerSlam predictions. Yeah, you know it. Talking about believe that. Anyway, so yeah, Jonah brought 2 topics. I brought 2 topics. We're gonna flip them around, flip the mic, if you will.
Yep.
Do a little podcast right here.
Okay. So,
should we begin?
Indeed, and our first image, if I can get this all to work right, is Lucha Underground Season 4 so far. Okay, so, as some of you may know, for new listeners, I am a big fan of the promotion Lucha Underground. It was the first wrestling promotion I got seriously into. For those who haven't seen Lucha Underground, but know a bit about wrestling, remember the in the 90s when you had the kind of supernatural KFAs like Undertaker, Kane, and to an extent later on Bray Wyatt? Well, this is Lucha Underground is a show that looks at that comic book style aesthetic and goes, you know what, we could make an entire show based around that.
Yeah, this for those of you that don't know Lucha Underground, it's amazing. It's something that myself and the Jonan have been quite emphatic behind for quite some time. That it brings you the wrestling you want to see, but the storylines you'd imagined in your head that you could never see in what you would call a serious promotion. And you just have this crazy kind of B-movie style that sometimes horror, sometimes comedy input with this tremendous athletic lucha wrestling style.
Indeed. Unfortunately, there's one thing that's been holding the show back, and that is a budget. Because unfortunately, Lucha Underground is kind of a niche within a niche, since there seems to be a large swathe of wrestling audiences that want to move away from storylines, especially supernatural stuff. So it has been getting less and less money, and each and every season comes with a big question mark of, are they going to have another season? And for the longest time, I thought it had been cancelled after a while, but thankfully, after some agreements they've made so that the stars now have more flexible contracts and can go and do work in other places like Impact Wrestling and Ring of Honor. In fact, I believe several stars like Johnny Mundo, Pentagon Dark, and Jeremiah Crane, and what was the other one? Brian...
Taya Valkyrie as well, and people like that.
Yeah.
I previously commented that Taya Valkyrie, I'm going to correct myself on this live stream now, was in fact not in a relationship with Johnny Impact, Johnny Mundo, John Morrison, whatever you want to call it. And that he was still with Melina. That is not correct. They're married now, Taya and Johnny. That's an actual thing now.
Yeah.
They got there because Melina was on the end of one of the seasons of Lucha Underground.
Yeah, and
the word on the street was she was too difficult to work with.
Yeah, she was apparently too difficult to work with, and then they had to write her out the show. Although they kind of did it subtly, that it was Johnny just says that he borrowed some cash because, and I quote, "I had to make some pictures go away." But
it's better writing out that way than they're missing in action.
Yes. So see. Season 4 has happened, but a lot of things have happened in the reshuffle. So, to kick off, Season 3 ended with a big cliffhanger of the GM, Dario Cueto, the sleazy GM who is also really obsessed with violence and adding crazy stipulations to matches, was shot at point-blank range because he was also working for an evil, cultish organization and had kind of lost an all-powerful gauntlet of the gods. So we all...
Of course.
Again, Lucha Underground, just get used to it. So we're all thinking, oh god, what are they going to do? Is he going to come back as a ghost? Are they going to have a new GM? Column A, column B. What they've done is they've taken the same actor, but now have him playing Dario's father, Antonio Cueto. And
Naturally, can I just quickly say, can you turn my volume up a little bit?
Okay, fair enough. God, these contractors, they still want everything.
This is some live editing right here that you will only get and flip the mic live.
Okay, I've turned up your volume now.
So I'm now on the same plane as my companion, the Jonan Monkey, Sven, so don't you worry. Because I think I know what you want about saying I sound like I'm from a different dimension. It's like I'm shouting from the top of the arena. Like,
oh god. It'll be like one of those promos where Paul Heyman's mic is, Paul Heyman doesn't have a mic and you just have to hear him near the camera going, I can't breathe.
Well, he just pats the mic and does that CM Punk thing.
Oh god. But yeah, so when they first did this, they were doing the whole camera thing where they were hiding Antonio's full face, and I will admit I was a bit perplexed on the moment, like, oh, he looks a lot like Dario. Oh no, Johnny, don't think like that. That's that's racist, thinking that all Mexican people look the same. But it was the instant when the very instant they had him in the arena and he was shouting, hold on, even though he was trying to do a different voice, it broke, and then I went, okay, yeah, it's the same actor.
That other voice, mate, I mean, I sympathize. As a person who plays a half-orc barbarian in a campaign of Dungeons & Dragons, which you can check out on MVL Gaming, the Jonan Monkey is the GM. Shameless plug. It's in my contract negotiations. I very, very much sympathize with him having to do this voice.
Oh,
you're gonna destroy his throat.
Yeah. Oh god. He's definitely a lot less animated. You can clearly tell because that voice. It's like you're trying to drink. It's like you're trying to drink vodka and whiskey mixed in with gravel. It's really.
I mean, I really do sympathise.
Uh.
The character is really cool, though. I like the character.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting take of this really old, grumpy GM who's not nearly as enthused at the wrestling and has a very low opinion on a lot of the competitors. And in fact, one of the things I did like was when as has happened in wrestling storylines, Pentagon Dark is currently the champion of Lucha Underground, and after winning one match, Cage appeared out of nowhere and then brutally attacked him, said, "I'm coming for your belt," and then walked into Antonio's office demanding a match, and Antonio just bluntly said, "I'm not just going to give you a championship opportunity just because you attacked the champion for no reason."
I mean, direct shot at WWE. But, you know, Pentagon is like a champion in more than one place. Maybe not as much as Austin Aries, who carries around, you know, almost a Skarsgård expedition of gold amount of titles with him. But he is also, at least where I am with Impact Wrestling, the current Impact Wrestling champion as Pentagon Junior. But Pentagon Dark, as you will, back to Lucha Underground.
Yeah, they're allowed to go to other places, but they still have to keep various names. So Pentagon Junior, he's still Pentagon Junior everywhere else, but on Lucha Underground he's Pentagon Dark. So that's why you have the little slight name changes like Johnny Impact, Taya Valkyrie, and Brian Cage. As it turns out, that's his first name, which.
Okay, I'm still really quiet.
Oh,
Johnny,
jeez.
can you up me a bit more?
I'm pumping you up now,
People must hear me. Because we're kind of like out of sync with the material plane, if you will. Like I can listen to it, but like we're a bit behind where we are.
Oh, jeez.
So I've got like my ear to the ground. Like, how do we sound like? But yeah, Sven's got it right. I'm still very quiet.
Okay, I'm boosting you as much as I can.
Or drop yourself on it.
Okay.
If you can't turn me up.
Okay, I'll boost myself down a bit. There we go. Hopefully that should make things a little bit more even.
I mean, I have this problem with Dungeons and Dragons when I stream it. Like, very often or not, I have this problem where I'm like, especially myself, because I've got tinnitus. Or tinnitus, however you say it. I've always called it tinnitus, but then like Americans call it tinnitus. You know, random tangent. That's better. Thank you, Sven, for letting us know.
Also, random tangent. I have a similar thing because I had autism, and one of the aspects I have is hypersensitive hearing, which means I often turn the volume things down low because I can hear it too well. But anyway, back on topic.
No, I know what it is. You didn't want me to outshine you like Bobby Lashley did to Elias's singing on Monday Night Raw.
No. That's definitely not it. Vince, he's on to us. But yeah, back to.
And I can't pronounce. And by the way, guys, I can't pronounce anything anymore. Like, if you saw me stream Red Dead Redemption, I couldn't say half the town names. And when it comes to superstar names, not a chance. Although what I do know is I know what the X stands for in that new hotshot wrestler in Lucha Underground stands for.
Oh god.
Do you want to know why I know what it means? It doesn't mean extreme. It doesn't mean anything like that. It's written on the back of his trunks. Xavier.
Oh god. The thing is, there are now two superstars of the word X. But anyway, yeah. So getting onto the main thing. So Antonio Cueto has now moved the Lucha Underground ring into a cold storage house, supposedly because the original temple was overrun by gangbangers. I don't know how, but anyway. So this is now led. This kicked off in the first episode, which was Aztec Warfare, which seems like an odd choice, but I get it. If you wanted to introduce, like, show everyone who's on the roster, what new additions there are, and try to introduce new storylines quickly, then I guess a Royal Rumble style event was the best way to go about it. It did feel like the weakest Aztec Warfare, though. I won't lie, though.
I'll tell you one thing I noticed, and that is that it was very cut together. Because previously we've seen like quite, long sequences in the ring. Aztec Warfare, I very much got the sense that things were cut down and cut out of it, because you know, the amount of time, they say this in the Rumble as well, people kind of get the amount of time people are in the Royal Rumble, and they say, was it actually 30 seconds between entrants, and they have the exact time. It felt very much like you would get a long amount of time, someone would come in, and then not much time at all, and someone would come in. It was very, very edited.
Oh god, are we offline now?
I don't think so.
Oh no, wait, we're back on now. Okay, sorry, we're still worried about the technical difficulties, but yeah, yeah, I totally agree with you there. It was surprising how quickly things were moving. And here's Mil Muertes in the ring. Oh, and he's been kicked about a number of times, and now he's out. It's like, wait, hang on. This is like one of your.
Like some very surprising eliminations, very quick eliminations at that. And not to mention, they brought back Chavo Guerrero Jr.
Yes, that wasn't...
Which was very odd.
Yeah, that was an interesting one, because originally he had lost a muscly lucha match, which was essentially a way of writing someone out of the show, and that was one of their best matches, Chavo Guerrero Jr. against Rey Mysterio. But I guess, well, they wrote it off as Antonio wanted to make peace with the Guerrero family. I kind of suspect that it's making up for the fact that Rey Mysterio is not in the show.
Yeah, though, spoilers, you can catch Chavo Guerrero Jr. in the last season of Glow. He makes an appearance there.
Ah, yes. But, yeah, so far, I'm with... but yeah, Rey Mysterio hasn't shown on, and neither has Sexy Star. That's the only other...
We knew Sexy Star was probably not show up.
Yeah.
She hasn't technically retired, but yeah.
Yeah, I know that she's been talking
after
about
the whole thing on the on the podcast that you know, that whole AAA thing. that whole shoot and breaking Rosemary's arm, yeah, that happened.
Yeah, that was not good. There was also that whole thing where
which reminds me, actually, because this is all spur of the moment and live and crazy and everything, I almost forgot to give you my one word of the hour. My goodness. Okay, so everyone, my one word for this hour is podcast. Because it's a podcast. You see what I did there? I actually explained what it was as well.
Oh, God.
So there you go. We'll see if I get away with it every hour, or if they make me do it per night, coach.
Oh, God. Oh, this is so...
Feel free to add your one word for the hour in chat.
My one word of the hour? Stress. Oh, my word, stress. But, yeah.
I feel for you, man. Welcome to live streaming.
Yep, especially since my internet doesn't seem to be cooperating very well. But, yeah. Oh, dear Lord. And especially...
Welcome to the big leagues, kid. You've been a big fish in a small pond for all this time, and all of those random things that they say when they bring someone into WWE.
Or just not acknowledge their background at all.
Oh yeah, completely ignore it.
Outside of when...
Oh, talking about acknowledging background, actually, there was a really nice touch. And this is another random tangent. You'll get to know that I do random tangents because I have a short attention span, and most of the time I will, in my live streams, I will just drop something and talk about something else because I genuinely don't remember what I was talking about. But the Velveteen Dream, who's often not long from my thoughts anyway. Velveteen Dream. He did a nice little, and I will tie this into Luke. He's fighting Ricochet.
Ah, yes.
Formerly.
Yep, the former Prince Puma is now.
Although he came. Yeah, he is now, as I had predicted for quite some time ago, was on his way to WWE. Eventually went there. Largely because of the issues, and they weren't paying him, and they locked him in a contract in Lucha Underground. But I digress. He had a match with the Velveteen Dream, and Dream came out dressed as what most people would have said would be Hulk Hogan. And true, he was. It was definitely a Hulk Hogan gimmick, but the subtleties were there. They don't often mention this sort of thing. But he was dressed in his gear had kind of puma spots on it.
Yeah,
and there were in fact teeth on it as well.
Yeah, that was a really nice catch. I did like that little tribute to it as well. Like it's almost kind of a subtle dig, because I know that Ricochet wasn't entirely happy towards the end of Lucha Underground, hence why they wrote him after trying to put him through a not too great heel turn.
Yeah, and that also took a strange turn as well, because Hulk Hogan wanted to be the manager for Velveteen Dream.
Oh God!
Which he politely said no for.
Yeah.
And Hulk Hogan now back technically in the WWE world, who gave a kind of like not apology to the roster, which the New Day and Titus O'Neil were not kind of very happy about.
Yeah.
Which is entirely understandable, because my understanding is that Hulk Hogan apologized for being caught.
Yeah, not exactly
I did not know I was being filmed, so it was okay to say whatever.
Oh jeez. Yeah, that was really bad move on his part.
That people sorry when they get caught, not sorry for doing it.
It's like when Roman Reigns said, "I owned my mistake" after being caught with steroids.
Oh yeah, for sure. But you can pretty much guarantee the scrutiny was on him at that point. But talking about scrutiny, I digress.
Yes.
As I have done so before. You may continue with your topic.
Yeah. It happens from time to time. But yeah. So, yeah, that was kind of actually, we brought up the Roman Reigns thing. I will honestly confess that during the first couple of episodes, I was wondering if Pentagon Dark was getting a bit too much of the Roman Reigns vibes, because in the first, he's done so many big firsts in this, like the first 3 episodes alone. The first guy to enter at number 1 in Aztec Warfare and win, and then in the second episode, he goes on to defeat Matanza clean. Like, this is a guy who went undefeated throughout, like, almost 2 seasons, you know?
The Matanza win was very startling for myself. But then, they want to make him look strong. I mean, I will actually compare it back to Hulk Hogan. Although, if you will, you can compare it to Triple H or Roman Reigns or John Cena, where, you've had someone built up, and then they've had their payoff. So, like, for Hulk Hogan, they would build up, like, King Kong Bundy, or they would build up, any big guy, the natural disasters or what have you. Build up any guy, make him huge, and then Hulk Hogan will come, and then he'll beat them because he's Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
And then you'll never see them again.
Yeah, I mean,
it's later down the line, exactly what they wanted to say about John Cena and his shovel, Rusev is a prime example. Rusev, so hot, accolade, never broken out. It reminded me of Chris Masters when it got broken. Who remembers the Master Lock? Who remembers Chris Masters? Nobody, because it got broken. And exactly what happened to Rusev.
And they tried to do the exact same thing with the F5 and then had Roman Reigns kick out of it 5 times just to drive the point home.
Yeah, I mean, talking about the kind of finishing move situation, like Bobby Lashley was using the spear before Roman Reigns, and suddenly when Bobby Lashley is using a spear, that's Roman's move. Michael Cole's shrill voice comes in. That's his move. Comes in, and then what happens? Roman Reigns kicks out of a Bobby Lashley spear, but a Roman Reigns spear puts down Bobby Lashley.
I mean,
we have the ex Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar match coming up.
I mean,
which we'll talk about later.
Indeed. Although I will say, that's also one of points just to make it so that this tangent seems relevant. One other small critique I have about this current season before I start getting into the positives was that, my God, Vampiro is getting worse and worse at commentary. I mean,
I'm actually glad you said something because I have been thinking the same thing. No disrespect to Vampiro. Want to put that out there. No disrespect to Vampiro. Amazing guy, amazing, legacy in the ring. But there's times, and let's be fair, everybody, where he's sitting on commentary and going, violence.
Yeah, or just...
And I'm thinking, maybe Matt Striker could call this by himself.
Yeah, yeah, because honestly, it seems to be these days that Matt Striker is doing the majority of the calling of the match, and Vampiro is kind of going off on bizarre rambles or just nitpicking over sentences for no apparent reason.
Vampiro do some great insight, which so his position would be the analyst. Normally you'd have someone with a bit of inside experience in the ring, and they would give you the stuff that the play-by-play commentator couldn't give you. So the play-by-play guy, which is probably where I would find myself if I was to do commentary. I've played all of the SmackDown versus Raw games, so I know every single move off the card. So I would do play-by-play.
Yeah.
So you have Vampiro, and he does say some really insightful stuff. Like there was the placement of hands not being locked when I think Mariposa was doing a hold of some kind, but she clasped her hands in a way that her fingers were vulnerable to having it broken. That was very interesting.
Yeah.
And there was another point when he mentioned on a superplex that the guy landed on his side, a la Ric Flair, prevent the damage coming straight to his back.
Yeah.
But that's actually not the way you want to fall.
Yeah.
If you're honest. You want to distribute your weight evenly.
Yeah, there are times when he does offer the occasional insight. Often one of the things where instead of just saying, oh my god, he kicked out the pin, he actually does go, well, they didn't hook the leg, that makes it easier for them to kick out,
not hooking the leg is probably the biggest thing that a lot of wrestlers do when they're in a rush. And if it's also like a respect thing in my mind. Like if you see someone who knows they're going to win a match and they don't hook the leg, they're saying you ain't going to kick out of this anyway.
Yeah.
And I find it a little disrespectful. You hook the leg anyway.
Yeah, it's one of those. I think it's like cool as a storytelling device. It's like when they call attention to it because you could miss it otherwise. But unfortunately, for every single little bit of good analysis, it tends to be like a diamond in the rough because he keeps straying off focus, like nitpicking over some minor stuff. Like there'll be a bit when Matt Striker will say something, he just rambles on about that, how that shows Matt Striker's an idiot or something like that, and then there will also. It's hard to believe that in the same week as, I believe it was Extreme... yeah, at the same week as Extreme Rules, when Coachman came up with the amazing insight of, oh, this bear hug is good for Ronda Rousey, because that means she can rest.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that had me in tears when I was watching that match. And the worst thing was, after Corey Graves says that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, the stupidest thing he's ever heard. Like, how are you still working here? He says, let me finish. Let me finish. So that she can have a rest and then get out of the hold. I'm like, okay, your point was exactly what you said before, which is idiotic. No one has ever gone, bear hug. I'm getting the air squeezed out of my lungs. A good opportunity to find my strength and get back in this match. But what he should have said is, she actually broke out of that hold. He could have said, which would have been hilarious, there, you see?
I'll take a moment to catch my breath, and now it's squeezed out.
And if it was me and I was on play-by-play or commentary or any capacity, whenever the match went back in the opponent's favour, I'd be like, damn, if only they could get him in a bear hug, he could get back into this match.
Oh god. But yeah, amazingly, Vampiro had a spot which was almost comparable to that in the same week. I mean, it's admittedly, I don't know if it was admittedly you could say it was meant to be an in-character thing, but he was talking about Pentagon Dark and he was going, the thing is, Pentagon Dark, he's a very brutal fighter, but the thing is, he I told him to stop going for the glory. He needs to stop listening to the fans. He needs to close that out and focus on the fight. He needs to become evil, is what I'm saying. And it's like, oh my god, you've crossed a line.
Evil. So that's like a common like heel commentator thing to say. Like, don't listen to the fans. And it's interesting because you've got to wonder where Vampiro sits on the commentary circle, because Matt Striker is definitely the good guy. He's definitely the guy in the audience. He's you, telling you what you should be thinking. And then you've got to wonder where Vampiro is sitting. Most of the time, Vampiro is on the Believers or WWE Universe or whatever you want to call it. He's on the side.
Yeah.
He's on your side. But sometimes he's not. Sometimes he's the guy. So he's got that very interesting role.
Yeah, I mean, that's perfectly fine, because you do have the heel commentator. I just find it a bit weird that sometimes he pushes it over into 80s cartoon villain, is what I'm saying. Also, the fact that there are times where he doesn't seem to be with it, and for the first 4 episodes, until I think someone pointed it out to him, because they've corrected it in a few episodes, you can... in the beginning of every episode, when they go straight to the commentators, you see Matt Striker talking directly to the camera, and you can see Vampiro very clearly reading what is supposed to be his script. It's kind of... it takes it out a bit. Like
that's pretty wonderful.
Yeah, like...
I mean, in fairness, the worst thing at the start of the episode is the band. I can't stand the band. When Def took over the show and they didn't have a band, I preferred it.
Maybe that'll happen when someone else becomes champion. But yeah,
yeah, maybe if Katrina gains control now that she does have her vessel back.
Yeah,
and of course is dressed in red for some reason.
Yeah, I should also...
because you have to have a physical representation of change.
Yeah, so basically there hasn't been a lot of storyline for the first couple of seasons, because like I've said, it's basically been a reshuffle of either adding in new wrestlers like Desmond X and Exolicious. That was...
Exolicious, yeah. So I want to quickly touch on Exolicious. Poor choice of words, I know, but maybe deliberate. He is essentially, you have your kind of androgynous characters, and you have the Velvet Dreamer, Goldust. He's kind of that, but not pretending in any way. So it's like there's no sort of maybe innuendo. It's just straight there in your face.
Yeah.
Which I find it very funny, and I enjoy the character. But it's really interesting, and it's also interesting because he's not an exotico. He's playing, weird enough to say this, he's playing the character straight. So it's like if you know what I mean, playing it straight.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But he's going straight with that character. So it's very interesting. But then again, they do like to bring in these really out there characters to the show. So he's one of the characters I'm interested to see what they do with him, because they have, in my opinion, been mishandling a couple of characters recently.
Yeah.
And that's some of the guys that they've left really quickly, because I also want to say they mishandled a couple of characters' exits. Because I mentioned earlier with the Missing in Action, that was a really bad one, where they changed one of the trio's tag champions to Son of Havoc, which is, not the one from Robot Wars, Son of Havoc from Lucha Underground. And they did that really weird. They could have had a match, not needing to put it inside of the big, first episode. They could have had a match, and then the guy just go up, and then they have to fill the space.
Yeah,
but they did it in a really weird way.
Yeah, that's honestly one of the few storylines they have done, because, one of the few storylines going on there is that Son of Havoc is taking place as the third member of the Trios Champion, since Dante Fox is, quote, missing in action, unquote. So that means...
Yeah.
But they've actually continued the storyline with that, because Killshot is basically just going, who the hell is this dude? Who the hell does he think he is, just walking in here and being a part of our team? And has been actively picking on him ever since. And the Mac is trying to mediate between the two, although I think he goes further back with Son of Havoc, so he's willing to get hear his side of the arguments more than Killshot's. So that's just led to the friction between the team, and I don't know how long.
Yeah, I mean,
that whole team's gonna last, honestly.
Hopefully that's gonna elevate into. I mean, it seems like Killshot is really gonna head off in a confrontation at some point. The places where I feel like they've been dropping the ball is like Cortez Castro.
Oh yeah, that one was
who is sacrificed. I mean, I understood when they sacrificed Mr. Spectacular, you know, the guy from Impact Wrestling. He just came in as an elevated jobber, so that was fine. I didn't mind that. And the pizza guy, you know,
Vinny,
that whole story was really funny actually.
Yeah,
I enjoyed his character the most when he was.
Yeah,
and he said, pineapple.
Yeah, I was gonna say I love that.
I wouldn't put a pineapple pizza on my worst enemy.
That just shows you how evil Antonio is. He's gonna give you a pineapple pizza and you're gonna like it.
Exactly.
But
yeah,
we should
sacrificing.
Probably...
I mean, the cop story could have really gone somewhere.
Yeah.
But it just feels like it's sort of been nipped in the bud now.
Yeah, just to explain, because we've kind of introduced that term. The one thing that has saved Matanza from the Bobby Lashley style fate is that thankfully him losing to Pentagon Dark is more of a story to make him stronger rather than just to write him out, because that's what I feared it would be. But now they've introduced this new subplot where Matanza has now broken the key, which apparently contained his human soul, and that Antonio is now saying, okay, Dario made you weak, we're now working on improving you and making you stronger. And they've been doing this by a match called Sacrifice of the Gods, which, if you want a commentary on wrestling audiences, he introduces this match and the audience is instantly chanting, "Sacrifice! Sacrifice! Sacrifice!"
It's the proverbial "we want blood" chant.
But yeah, ultimately all of these matches are essentially squash matches that are designed to write wrestlers out the show. They've done this to a couple of jobbers, which makes sense. And when they're sacrificed, they essentially do an Undertaker effect of the lights go down, they come back up, the guy's nowhere to be seen. But the thing
I foresee this happening at Swagger at some point.
Oh yeah.
just saying. Or something strong, whatever he's called now.
Jake Strong, yes. But,
Jake Strong, yeah. What an imaginative name. What should we call him? Jake Strong. Yeah, that'll do.
Honestly, I prefer that to Big Bad Steve. That was
That's Steve as well. Probably not long for a sacrifice match himself, and then maybe he'll come back as part of the Rabbit Tribe. Who knows?
But yeah, I was perfectly fine with it as a way of, sort of getting rid of those jobbers and also making Matanza look stronger. But I will admit, Cortez Castro was a really bizarre one. I mean, fair enough, if the guy wants to leave, you can't continue that cop storyline, but it does feel like... I mean, Vinny, the Italian comedic jobber, lasted longer than Cortez did. That's the weird thing.
Yeah. But, there's going to be stuff going on behind the scenes. They can only have so many wrestlers. They've got a talent exchange thing going on with Impact Wrestling, which they refused to do with WWE, because they did extend what we could say would be the olive branch, but I did make a couple of predictions when I heard that was happening, and I imagined that, Ricochet, who has gone over there, would probably be like traded for Adam Rose. That sort of talent exchange. Having said that, Adam Rose, or maybe his Kruger character from the days of Florida Championship Wrestling, would probably work pretty well in Lucha Underground.
Indeed. And honestly, also, I feel that Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt would work better in Lucha Underground as well.
It's a real shame they went to WWE and didn't think about Lucha Underground, because they would have had so much more creative freedom. We have had the Broken Hardys in WWE, but like everything they do, they want to put their own stamp on it.
Yeah.
Stamp. So it's never quite going to be as free as it could be, and I think it would have been nicer to see them extend the twilight of their careers inside of Lucha Underground instead.
Indeed. But, getting back on topic. So, there's been a lot of reshuffles. We've had those squash matches. Mascarita Sagrada was randomly killed off in a storyline segment, which is meant to star Paul London's heel turn. That hasn't got off to a good start.
He's wearing black now. I often say this when they say someone's getting more intense in WWE. Like, Mojo Rawley is more intense, and, the new Adam Rose, No Way Jose, eventually he's going to drop his, leftover rosebuds, and then he's going to become more intense, and then eventually you're going to become a swirling red mist of fury that's no longer humanoid in any way, and then you can't get any more intense than that.
Oh, God.
But that's the final transformation. I will say that after he was killed, the luchador was brought back in black as well. We saw him inside the cage, I believe.
Yes.
So he should be continuing.
Oh, was he inside the cage? I thought that was some like random extra. I don't know, but yeah, that would be cool.
No,
it
was him, but in a black outfit. So they just kind of rewrote him to be part of the Rabbit Tribe.
Okay, yeah, because I knew that was the cliffhanger at the end. I just didn't. I just didn't expect the other brutal killing off, and I guess also,
no, I don't think anybody did. I really like the way he did it. I'm a big fan of Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
So I really like that segment, even with Paul London being in it.
Yeah.
And Paul London. I really respect Paul London for continuing his style. He's doing that kind of thing that Matt Hardy did, of like, you know what, and this is what I respect out of wrestlers when they continue wrestling past their high flying days, and they realize that you can get just as much pop from like a moonsault or something from choking someone in the ropes. So you don't need to put your body on the line. It's what the Miz has been saying for a long time. And it's true.
Yeah.
You don't need to do these flips. And I will always go back and compare this to when Jack Gallagher in 205 Live, everyone does an outside dive and the crowd go nuts. And then he runs to the edge of the ropes, gets out of the ring and does an axe handle smash. And everyone goes crazy. So you don't need to do high-flying moves.
Indeed.
They're cool. But you can continue your wrestling with safer style and still get away with it.
Indeed. But yeah, the one other person who has been written out of the show so far, although it's hard to tell if they're gonna stay dead just because they're called Phoenix, and the fact that Katrina was gave his KFA girlfriend Melissa Santos the medallion that kept her alive for so long, so oh god, if you're new to Lucha Underground, this is going to be really weird. Okay.
Yeah, it's not going to make a lot of sense, but we could have a Ghost Phoenix at some point. But Phoenix by his very namesake shouldn't be allowed to die. But it's funny how Melissa got over it really quickly.
I think it's one of those...
like, next match quickly.
I mean, she still does her
it's
job,
okay,
but
because Marty the Moth is having dreams about Melissa and himself pulling out Pentagon's teeth. So it's all fine in Love and War.
Well, actually, the one subtle thing I did actually like is that after that point, Melissa is less enthusiastic when she reads out Mil Muertes' name. It's like, accompanied by Katrina Mil Muertes. But
Melissa, I would say, one of the better announcers you will see, because she reacts differently to different superstars, which is something in WWE you get the same delivery of every superstar because they pretty much want the ring announcer to be invisible.
Yeah.
But Melissa does add a lot of character to each person, the way she says it.
Apparently, there were a couple of announcers that were trying to push for that in WWE, but then they were told, and I quote, "Stop trying to get yourself over. The crowd only has so many pops in them."
Nice.
Yeah.
I pretty much figure that Eden is doing fine getting herself over in Impact Wrestling these days, or was getting over in Impact Wrestling.
But yeah, long and short of it. Sorry about that. But yeah, so Phoenix is a bit of a question mark because basically Katrina, she was a ghost type character who was also the manager of Mil Muertes, who is basically a zombie.
Yep.
She managed to defeat Phoenix in a Grave Consequences match, or casket match if you are more familiar with WWE. And that was also a way of killing off Jeremiah Crane. And honestly, I wasn't a big fan of that character, so I'm perfectly fine with him going. Especially since he's now having one of the biggest runs of his life in Impact Wrestling right now as Sami Callihan. So yeah, he's doing okay for himself.
And he's doing pretty well in Impact Wrestling, like you say. We'll come over to this when we talk about Impact Wrestling, because I'm actually pretty impressed by the storylines they're running.
And yeah, so he's gone, and I do like the fact that Evil East came back and helped with his killing off, that was kind of cool. But yeah, otherwise, it's taken a while for all of the roster to reshuffle to confirm or explain away who's in, who's not in. So the only two storylines we've got so far are the friction between the trio champions, which I've already mentioned. There also seems to be friction between Katrina and Mil Muertes as of late, which I don't know where that's going. And the final thing there's Matanza getting stronger, and then the final storyline is a war that's going on between the Worldwide Underground, a faction consisting of Jolly Mundo, Taya Valkyrie, and Jack Evans and PJ Black. Oh, and former comedic jobber Ricky Mundo, although he's actually getting a lot more spotlight this time, which I am liking.
He does have an interesting story running on. I'm going to digress quickly to, hey Digicon, welcome to the stream. Yeah, Lucha Underground is a great show, and I do heartily recommend it. I would say it's the best wrestling show to watch. I think it's on Netflix. Is that correct? I do believe it's on Netflix these days.
It's on Netflix in America.
Okay.
Yeah,
sad. MVL is sad.
Yeah, unfortunately, as far as I'm aware, Europeans haven't managed to. Us Europeans don't have it on Netflix yet. The El Rey Network is also where the new episodes are being broadcast right now. If you're in America, so yeah, those are the two places you can get Lucha Underground right now. Oh, also, Americans
do
can get
a sad,
it on...
dramatic pose.
Also, Americans can get it on iTunes, which is so it's literally just in Europe that has to struggle to try and watch it. But yeah,
as always, the way. I mean, for us with WWE, we have to watch it at like 1 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
So we've always struggled watching wrestling.
Yeah, unless it's World of Sport, but
yeah, there you go.
But yeah,
let's have a whole new division put around trying to bury that.
Oh god, yeah. That might be, that's a fun other topic, but yeah. So Lucha Underground, yeah, great if you really like those. If you really like that comic book style of wrestling. And speaking of which, the opponents of the Worldwide Underground are the Snake Tribe, which is consisting of Daga, Cobra Moon, and the other active Drago, and the other active fighter now, Vibora, or as the audience still insists on calling him, Luchasaurus.
Yeah, he's like a the final form of Baron Corbin, if you will. So like, to me, he looks like to have the same body type of Baron Corbin, but he do standing moonsaults. So yeah. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and they've changed his makeup as well, because originally they used to have him in just like this prosthetic snake head, and now they've made it so that he's just wearing it's kind of scaly makeup, which I think works better because you can see the intensity of his eyes, especially when he did the finish in that one match, which is what I can only describe as a leaping choke slam with a spin in it. That was an amazing finish, not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, most of the wrestlers in Lucha Underground are insanely talented for their spot. But that's one of the problems why we're seeing a thin roster, because then other people see their talent and they start to pick away at it slowly but surely. I mean, eventually NXT is going to have all of the wrestlers Because as the World Wrestling Entertainment starts to fear other territories more and more, because as they're leaving their network deal to go to Fox, for £2 billion, by the way, dollars.
Yeah.
two billion deal. The network's in talk with I think Ring of Honor and New Japan to fill that spot. They're going to have another competitor, back like in the old Monday Night War era. So they're going to have another competitor soon, an actual, not like it was when Impact Wrestling was trying to compete and just not competing. This is going to be actual competition.
Yeah, they're really, really trying to buy up any competitors. Like even I mentioned World of Sport, which I will probably review in another episode because it's only had one episode so far, and I feel it's disingenuous to just base it entirely on one episode. But yeah,
but it's all right. You can see all of your World of Sport competitors on NXT UK.
Yeah, I was just getting into that. They're already trying to buy out the talent for them, even though the show's barely got off the ground and WWE is going, hey, contracts. I mean,
the contracts they're on are actually pretty small money for WWE contracts, but they are allowed to compete in, I think, Evolve and places like that as well. WWE is like kind of using Evolve as another development territory these days.
Yeah, it's really weird. I mean, Lucha Underground have already had to compensate for that. Like I brought up in a earlier episode that they had to do a similar thing where just to answer your question, Digicon, don't worry, we will be discussing WWE in a bit. In fact, towards the end of this stream, we're just doing the Lucha Underground stuff first. But yeah,
it's impossible to avoid WWE when talking about wrestling, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So the WWE topics are going to be talking about the crowd versus WWE and SummerSlam predictions, which will be towards the end.
Yeah, that's towards the end. But first, to wrap up the Lucha Underground topics quickly, we've had an interesting feud going on with Worldwide Underground and the Snake Tribe, just because it's a war between two heel factions, and the war between the ruthless heels of the Snake Tribe versus the sneaky heels of Worldwide Underground. And I gotta say, I do like the back and forth those guys have in their segments, now that they're not holding the championship hostage like Johnny Mundo was for the longest time in season 3. I do actually like the way they interact with each other, especially when Jack Evans refuses to go up against the Snake Tribe because, and I quote, snakes are icky.
I mean, you mentioned holding a championship hostage. Brock Lesnar, cough, cough.
Oh, God, yeah. But but the long and short of it is, Lucha Underground, the performances are really good. The matches itself are still really good so far, and I like that even though there are some matches which have clearly been storylines such as the Undercover Cop storyline that have been unceremoniously ended. I do like that they're at least trying to write out the leaving staff and make do with what they have to still tell interesting stories. So, because I do like the fact that they're not just saying, oh, the job has mysteriously disappeared, never to be seen again. They are actually writing, oh, Matanza sacrificed them, getting stronger and adding to his power and all of that. And
interesting.
I think the other...
so yeah, I feel the same way about Brock Lesnar, Deacon. I really liked Brock Lesnar when he started off, except that he did injure a lot of people, legitimately injure a lot of people. And from what I understand, he never had a respect for anyone below him, but he respected anyone above him. And this is information I've discovered from listening to podcasts and talk about Brock Lesnar. I mean, he does great work in the ring, and but he injured a lot of people when he started off, and that always bugged me. And I actually used to be a really big fan of John Cena when he was Basic Thugonomics, and I remember he like F5'd him into like the corner of the ring, and it injured his leg, and that really pissed me off. But where he's at the moment is kind of a problem WWE has, where they want to bring in these big names because they sell tickets, but then they leave themselves in this situation where they have to bring in those big names to sell tickets, but then they have to pay them like they're the big names.
Yeah.
So then they have to do that. Then those people aren't going to show up as much because they get those big paydays and they can go elsewhere. And then WWE, the weird thing is, on the flip side of that, is almost trying not to make any more huge names except for maybe one that they choose.
Yeah.
So they can say, this is our boy, and we can't make anyone else. If we make anyone as big as The Rock, know for sure we can control. They're going to go off to Hollywood. So that's always been a weird thing going on with WWE.
By
contrast, and that can take you away from liking a wrestler.
By contrast, Lucha Underground, I'm surprised they haven't done much of the one big name that the audience got a massive pop out of, which is Tommy Dreamer. He showed up during Aztec Warfare and has not been seen since. But by contrast, they've actually managed to work hard to make the new guys feel like big deals. Like, they had Mr. Damien X has now got a massive pop out of the crowd after the Gift of the Gods match. By the way, well deserved for El Dragon Azteca Jr., who's, I guess, is now the only face left in Lucha Underground.
I think El Dragon Azteca Jr. is kind of taking Prince Puma's place as like the main star of the show. And Desmond X really liked it. They pushed him the proper way by putting him on 2 matches and making him consistently good.
Yeah.
So what sold him was the wrestling.
Yeah, the wrestling was what sold him, and Jake Strong. I will also quickly mention, going back to my point of writing out people in interesting ways, I like the fact that Famous B, who's kind of this slimy promoting figure, walked into the ring and goes, "Hey, Tejano and Dr. Wagner are making money for me in Mexico, but I've got 3 new clients," and then introduced the 3 wrestlers under that banner, which included...
that was fine, but it really sucked.
Yeah.
And it's just like, we had this whole thing of getting Tejano, into the fold, and it was just, so deflating.
Yeah. It was kind of sad that Tejano couldn't show up to continue that storyline, but I do like the fact that they were introducing new wrestlers. I mean, Big Bang Steve, he hasn't really showed off himself much, but it's kind of weird. I go back and forth on Jack Swagger or Jake Strong, as he's known in Lucha Underground, in that he does have they've been setting him up well as this big imposing guy, and they've given him this chant where he beats his chest and goes "Strong," which the crowd has really gotten behind. But there are times
when he beats his chest now, he in fact almost does the "We the People" sign.
Yeah,
where he puts his hand on his heart, like very slightly.
And I did
let's be honest, he's being pushed because he's a WWE guy, and his style isn't very lucha. That's fine, but they may have the problem that they've had with big WWE guys when they bring them in, like Alberto Del Rio, who shows up, and then doesn't come back, and then shows up to Impact Wrestling, and then doesn't come back. So we'll see. We'll see if this sort of mentality pays off for them. It didn't pay off for Impact Wrestling back in the day.
Yeah, and I did like, also to quickly add a match I liked so far. I liked in his introduction match that it was a reversal of what you expect, where Famous B distracts the ref and ironically costs his own man the win, as opposed to what normally happens, which the faces lose the match. So I liked that twist. The one thing I will say is that Jake Strong looks like an imposing guy, but there are moments when he just looks really confused in the middle of the ring rather than the intimidating force he's meant to be.
I mean, it could just be the majesty of the temple. That's what I would attribute it to.
Yeah. But yeah, all in all, now that the roster shuffling has died down a bit, I'm hoping that we can get back to the full-on storylines of the major build-ups, because, again, we do have all of this interesting stuff. Like, El Dragon Azteca Jr. is now Gift of the Gods champion, which means he can go after go after Pentagon Dark for the championship, which that should be interesting. Matanza is slowly getting stronger behind the scenes, and if any of the trio team can get their acts together, they'll probably be able to get a victory against the current Triples champions, because Mac, Killshot, and Havoc aren't really on good terms right now.
I have to quickly ask you, what's the uptime looking at this point? Because as mine says, we've been streaming for just over an hour. That might be counting the technical difficulties at the start.
Yep, same
but
here.
It looks like we've been going over an hour. You know what that means?
Oh no.
That means that I have a second word for the hour, and my second word for the hour is live, because this podcast is live.
You know what my word is? Subscribe.
Subscribe. Yeah. Very well done. You know, even doing it like that, it's less annoying than Coach.
Oh jeez.
Coach, by the way, who has essentially alluded to not watching the product.
Oh god. But yeah, that's all I had to say. Hey, Lucha Underground, liking it so far. I'll talk more about it as the episode slowly develop. But yeah, it's still really great, but you can clearly tell that they're still suffering from the roster shakeup.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually up to date with Lucha, which is amazing. I'm actually not up to date with WWE, but that's because of time zones. So I will be watching SmackDown later today at some point.
Oh, I can give you some spoilers then.
Oh, I bet it's terrible, because you know, that's how they feel about their own product. But anyway, where do we move from here? What's our next topic?
Our next topic is yours, if I can bring the image up. It is, there we go, renewed interest in Impact Wrestling. Over to you.
Yes, so, Impact Wrestling. We've been here before, we've talked about Impact Wrestling, or TNA, or Global Force Wrestling, whatever you want to call it. It has so many names.
Yeah.
Like the devil in that way.
I was going to say, our first episode, one of your topics was, man, Impact Wrestling was shite.
I mean, I've had a love-hate relationship with Impact Wrestling. Mostly hate. But, you know, it's changed ownership yet again. It's changed hands yet again. It's changed creative yet again. There's new commentary people yet again. There's a whole new roster yet again. However, this has, for a change, been for the betterment. No problem, Digicon. Thanks for having you, bro. I'll catch you next time, buddy. As superstars leave and superstars come, they have entered a talent relationship with Lucha Underground, of all places.
Yeah,
which has led to many names coming in.
Like, I know Lucha Underground pretty much had to do that because one of the reasons they were losing stars to people like WWE was that they were locking them down in exclusivity contracts, which meant they couldn't work elsewhere, and that was really rubbing people up the wrong way.
Yeah, it was also very awkward because they were locked to TV taping times, and they had to keep their schedule free, and they didn't know when they could and couldn't work. Now they are permitted to work inside of Impact Wrestling. Impact Wrestling is very easy because it films in a TV format. It's pre-taped. They will tape, let's say 8 episodes at once. That's how they're getting to the point where their story flows quite well and continues. As was the way with the broken universe for the Hardy Boys. You got a lot of continuing story because they knew exactly what they were doing. They could film it in all one go. You still have random matches because honestly they do just shove random matches they could have recorded at any point in there. But recently they've been adding what they used to call From the Vault. I think they did this on SmackDown at one point when it was pre-taped. They might have called it From the Vault. Whatever it is, they show some classic matches, but these are normally very good, almost too good. Like they off-put the quality of the show at this time because they'll show you an Ultimate X match with AJ Styles in, and you'll be thinking, yeah, it was pretty good back then, wasn't it? But they have developed into a lot of really good story that I'm enjoying. This particular and involving Lucha Underground wrestlers. So, like we mentioned before, Pentagon Dark, or Junior as he's known now, is at least where I'm watching it at this point, because I'm not up to date. I will say that I was quite a way off, and I've been slowly catching up. When editing or doing something like that, I will have it on in the background. So I've been catching up, and there's this. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so far I've pretty much I've been meaning to get into Impact Wrestling because I've been keeping up with some YouTube clips, so I know the state of play of some current matches, and I've heard reports of what happened in the pay-per-view Slammiversary, and I've heard nothing but critical praise from it. But yeah, I have yet to watch a full episode of Impact Wrestling, so definitely for the viewers at home, and definitely not for me, where can you catch up with Impact Wrestling these days?
Well, officially they I believe they started their own streaming service. And I laugh because it's pretty much the what's WWE doing? Let's do that. But they're with Anthem now. They're with Anthem. Passive, they're still on Pop TV because, I used to watch it on Challenge, and I think Challenge dumped them. So you can catch it where you can catch it. I mean, I know Pop TV dropped them, but the Fight Network and Anthem has them. They are broadcast. They're still a show. Where you can find it, I find it with a keyboard these days. They put a lot of their clips on YouTube and stuff, so you can find it. But it is not major network big, easy to find like it is elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I will be honest. All
right, Digicon. I thought you said gotta go. Lucha sounds
cool.
No.
You're
still there, buddy.
Yeah. Yep,
hey,
he's still here.
This is what happens when this is our first live stream podcast, and it's Jonan's first live stream. So it's going great.
Yeah. But yeah,
I've only seen a bit of TNA, but never not a full match. And they do have some incredible wrestlers, but WWE has stolen them. So I will say, and I will quickly talk about WWE. Like, they are coming up to SummerSlam, where one of those pay-per-view matches is going to be Samoa Joe versus AJ Styles. And you're thinking, am I watching Bound for Glory in the 2000s? You're like, what's going on? These are TNA guys.
Well, it's not like it is a first. I mean, it's not like AJ Styles had been in a long feud where he's fought against someone he's already fought on the indie scene multiple times, and has got to the point where people are kind of sick of seeing that match.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a good match because they're very proficient.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it won't be a good match. I'm just saying that it's kind of ironic that AJ Styles is having this feud after having the Shinsuke Nakamura feud as well.
Okay, I think I was just checking. I think Impact Wrestling is on Channel 5 in the UK.
Okay. Might have to check.
I mean, I'm reading all sorts of things. I'm reading Spike UK. I'm reading Channel 5. It used to be on Challenge. Who knows? They keep hopping from network to network.
Yeah. I'll have to keep that in mind.
It is definitely still on TV.
Yeah. And from what I can tell...
And it's getting better.
Yeah, from what I can tell, it seems to be kind of an in-between between WWE and Lucha Underground in terms of its storytelling, by which I mean they still have supernatural elements. I mean, at the moment their Knockouts champion is Su Yun, who's whose gimmick is the Zombie Bride, which is very visually interesting.
I did write some notes on Su Yung and that story. That is one of the storylines that has really pulled me in, because it's an Impact original storyline.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that is they're really doing well. They're doing good storytelling. Not quite Lucha Underground and not quite NXT. And I will quickly say NXT. WWE's best show for storytelling. You want to talk about Johnny Wrestling and Tommaso Ciampa with a rivalry that's been set up right. A rivalry that's spanned. If you're going to watch any WWE show, watch NXT. Your wrestlers will cycle out every now and then they'll be not used properly, like Bobby Lashley in WWE. But when they're there, you will get matches because they have a lot of time to practice and a lot of time to rehearse, and their story is concurrent. It will keep going properly. But Impact Wrestling has had a really good storyline with Su Yung and the Undead Brides. This storyline is straight out of a horror movie. In particular, it's when Su Yung started to tussle with Rosemary, formerly from Decay. So you've got Rosemary, who's playing like a kind of zombie gimmick as it is, and then you've got an undead bride like a spirit, and you put those two head to head, and they had just a terrific rivalry that started going more bizarre and bizarre. So Su Yung and her undead brides buried, essentially, Rosemary, put her in a casket, and then set fire to it adrift, essentially killing Rosemary. But I mean, that's where I am currently, but I figure Rosemary will probably be back because she's already dead.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing, Rosemary is never going to work a match with Sex Star.
Oh god, no. I'm actually hoping that this is a way
I will quickly touch as well that WWE fans and Cruiserweight fans will be pleased to know that Su Yung, wife of Rich Swann, Rich Swann is coming to Impact Wrestling. He didn't retire.
Good.
So you will be seeing Rich Swann and Su Yung together. I assume not in the same,
I think he did show up.
Same story, but...
not in the same story, but yeah.
He may well have done.
He has already shown up, and he went up against another person who was on the WWE Cruiserweight division, Austin Aries, and
Austin Aries, by the way, as well, fantastic wrestler. He's in Impact Wrestling these days. But one of the best stories I've been seeing is Su Yung, who appeared. There was another thing that she was doing with this. There was this. I can't remember the character's name, but there was this guy who was asking out every knockout, and eventually, he used Su Yung to get revenge on the girl that he was after. She said no, and typically at the end of the match, he's like, "Su Yung, you're the one for me."
God.
And he's looking at this, undead bride character who's like dripping blood from the mouth. And he's like down on the knee going, marry me. And she just spits blood in his face or beats him up. I can't remember. She really, really decked him in. It's fantastic. In the standout story for me, Su Young's character, something that you probably couldn't get away with in other promotions.
Oh God, yeah.
And the other story I want to touch about in Impact Wrestling is Sami Callihan and Eddie Edwards, which started as a legitimate injury with Sami Callihan. I can't remember what his Lucha Underground name is.
It was Jeremiah Crane.
Jeremiah Crane, there you go. And I don't remember his TNA name, but he's the guy that does pump kicks all the time.
Well, I think on TNA he is just Sami Callihan now.
Okay. There was a legitimate injury where he set up a steel chair above the face of Eddie Edwards, and he went at it with a baseball bat because that's apparently a smart thing to do. And instead of it's fake. He didn't need to hit the chair with the velocity in which he did, but he did anyway. And it was a legitimate injury, but they've worked it into a story. So they had Sami Callihan across as the most dangerous man in wrestling. People want to censor him. He doesn't want to be censored. He's going to beat up announcers. He's going to beat up anyone. Impact Wrestling wants to fire him. kayfabe wise.
Yeah.
So he's a dangerous man, and then he starts messing around with Eddie Edwards and his family, which caused Eddie Edwards to call in Tommy Dreamer, the man, the House of Hardcore legend, and they have this involved. But then it's like Eddie Edwards starts to cross that line, and he starts to look a bit like the thing he hates himself, and he loses it. Tommy Dreamer is trying to hold him back from beating down Endo Stick with a weapon, with everything. Sally Callahan to get his revenge from the time he took away from his wrestling, and he just beats him down so bad, he sends him to hospital. Then when he's in hospital, he comes at him again. He comes at him again, and he's just snapped. He's a different person. You've got Sami Callihan pleading to his girl, essentially, please put him away from me. Look at what he's done. It went so far out there, but in a good way.
Yeah, and I think also to answer Digicon on screen, I know that some people, it's kind of the reason why I mentioned that. I know that there are some people who don't like the supernatural elements in wrestling, or don't like the crazed elements of it, and that I can entirely understand. It's not to everyone's taste, but personally, the way I feel about it is that wrestling is, just because it's such a ridiculous thing when you get right down to it, I feel that little bit extra of pushing the extra mile in storytelling, having your wrestlers go over the top and do big ridiculous things, whether it be supernatural or whether it be the psychotic, like chasing someone down to a hospital, that can really elevate things and go a long way and make a match seem that much more epic, rather than two guys just walking to a ring.
There's something majestic about The Undertaker being an undead mortician from Death Valley that makes it seem like he could do anything. And I've always flocked towards the stranger characters. I was a big fan of the Brood, who these surfer dudes are not vampires. Come on. But it's kind of cool. I'm into it.
Yeah. And that's also the thing. I've not seen that particular feud of Sami Callihan's, but I have seen clips of when he starts getting into the feud with Pentagon Dark, and that was also one of the big sellout things in the Slammiversary pay-per-view, because it's kind of that another thing where Sami Callihan is a dick and he's trying to just completely break Pentagon, even to the point where I think one of the things is he actually starts going after Pentagon's mask. But the problem is you've got someone who can be equally vicious back, and that's pretty much how. Yeah,
I mean, Pentagon is known as the Vicar of Arms. He's a pretty scary dude. I mean, the going for the mask thing is like a typical Western against a lucha, heel thing to do. Like, I have no respect for your mask. I'm going to try and take it off. It's a good play, and you get to the point where. In some of the matches, this has happened in Lucha a lot, where they will tear the mask where you essentially see the guy's entire face. But it's a good place to hide a blood pack in the mask as well.
Yeah.
So that's also something that they can use.
And I believe, actually, now I remember, the Slammiversary match was a mask versus hair match. So, yeah, they were really pushing that angle for it as well.
Yeah. And they've had a lot of good stuff with Aerostar and Phoenix and Pentagon Dark coming in, and Drago. It's really elevated the X division, and I mean they still have very, very good divisions going on. The X division, it was almost going the way of the Cruiserweight division back in the light heavyweight days of WWE, where it's sort of thinking, they might be losing this belt. This might be gone. I mean, at least it did better than the Grand Championship. That was a dismal, which I believe was finally awarded to one of their commentators when they just got rid of the Grand Championship, or the secondary title, the TV title, whatever you want to call it.
Geez.
The Knockout division has picked back up a bit, partially with the influx of new talent. and you know, partially with Lucha Underground staff like Taya Valkyrie. I'm still sad Gail Kim's not there. You know, Mark Henry was saying that Gail Kim should come to WWE's All Woman event, and it's never going to happen.
Nope.
Flat out, that is never going to happen. But they're doing well.
Yeah.
They're doing well.
They're
They
doing
have
well.
they still have random matches. They still, it's how they record it. They still have matches that really rely on anything. There's a really funny storyline between you know, Grado and Abyss going on. Abyss, who's running with his Joseph Park persona, which is quite funny. There's a sumo guy and this big guy. They're teaming up. They're a bit of an oddball tag team. The sumo guy doesn't speak any English. The other guy's trying to get him in shape, but he's a sumo. He's supposed to be like
God.
that. So that's really funny. And they're running with that. That's good. But yeah, it was dreadful, but it's good again. It's good again. For how long? Who knows? But
Yeah.
Impact Wrestling is watchable again.
Yeah,
so
they do Sorry.
you have me having a renewed interest in Impact Wrestling.
Yeah, they do seem to have gotten a bunch of good talent. I mean, not just from Lucha Underground. I've always been curious about it because Rosemary really was a standout, and I hope that she's either going to Lucha Underground or is going to come back. I mean, it's kind of weird because her character is kind of like this zombie hive thing, and there was a moment when Ali was picking up the rest of that feud in order to avenge Rosemary. But I don't know where they're planning to continue that storyline, or whether Rosemary's only out for KFA reasons, or if she's actually leaving. But either way, I'm hoping I'm hoping she goes anywhere other than WWE, because WWE has proven time and time again they cannot handle supernatural elements well. The Undertaker is like the one exception.
This is true, and I feel bad for mentioning that. From my understanding, Crazy Steve, a fellow Decay member, made his way to WWE, as far as I know, with the intention of there being some sort of rekindled broken rivalry at some point.
I guess we'll just have to see how that goes. But yeah, anything else you want to say on TNA Impact, or is that?
No, it's a quick topic, but then it's a short show. Impact Wrestling. It's not 3 hours of Raw and 2 hours of SmackDown Live.
Indeed. But yeah, at this point, I believe we'll be taking a quick break just to use facilities, get drinks, etc. But yeah, we will be back in a moment where we will be continuing with our two topics, which are the WWE Universe versus WWE versus the crowd, which is the bigger problem. And
I love how you just like, I give up. It's the audience. It's not
Yeah.
the WWE Universe. It's the audience. The audience is a dirty word, or fans. They don't like to say that either.
Yeah. Oh god. Well, you know what, I'll save that for the main topic. But yeah. And then following that, we will have our predictions for SummerSlam. So
It's one of the big four, everybody. Or is it big five? They want to try and elevate Money in the Bank. But we will have our predictions for that, and my predictions will probably go like da-da, 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 da-da.
oh god, don't get me started. But yeah, in the meantime, whilst we're on the break screen, you can also hear some music which was actually composed by MVL himself. This is Stargaze, and some images which were created by me. So yeah, enjoy.
We'll be right back.
And we're back.
Hello, welcome back to part 2 of the Flip the Mic podcast live.
Indeed. And now we are moving on to our third topic for the night. WWE versus the crowd. Who is the problem?
Who's to blame? Who?
Yeah.
Who?
This...
I had to do it, sorry.
Oh, God. This is something that's been in the back of my mind for a while after... well, it was back in my mind after... first it was WrestleMania, then Backlash. Because originally let's just say the two main events were... Well, not very well received is the understatement of the year, quite frankly. It was... basically, the long and short of it is... Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, and in Backlash, Roman Reigns versus Samoa Joe. It had the fans chanting for literally everything other than the match, and when they were chanting for the match, it was usually stuff like, this is boring, or this is awful, and occasionally, in the case of Backlash, when people started leaving the building, they were also chanting, beat the traffic, which is...
Yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah.
That was a thing.
But then it got even worse because of... okay, originally we could write that off as, okay, it's the fact that people don't like Roman Reigns, or rather, they don't like the push. Has
the scene definitely switched for you, Jonan?
It has switched on OBS. I don't know why it's not switching on YouTube yet.
That's such a weird thing.
Might be that my internet's running kind of low. Yay, first live stream, folks. Let's see.
Technical difficulties, which shall always plague the brave.
It's buffering like hell. Hopefully it will catch up soon to what the hell we're talking about. I presume you can still hear us, right? Or is he just responding to the we're back down there?
Probably my sentiment on the text, because I think we might be back now.
Yeah, we're on there now. Wow, if you were in the distant future when this is caught up.
Yeah, you know what? It did come back, but it's just like it's real far off sync.
Oh dear God.
So yeah, okay.
Yeah,
there you go.
So, actually, you want to be on the safe side, I am going to start recording this. But yeah, long story short, apologies for people from the far distant future who have now caught up with us. But yeah, this was all put down to not liking the Roman Reigns push, which has been a problem for multiple years now. The biggest problem... although, the thing is, then Extreme Rules happened, and in Extreme Rules, at the very last minute, the main event was originally going to be Bobby Lashley versus Roman Reigns, but apparently the roster was saying, no, we should have one of the other matches, like the Dolph Ziggler versus Seth Rollins Iron Man match. That should be a really good chance. The two of them will show off, and it'll be a great main event. Unfortunately, for those who don't know, an Iron Man match is when you have to get the most pinfalls in a 30-minute match. So the match will continue for 30 minutes no matter what. It will just have... but if you get more pinfalls, you win when the time's up. Unfortunately, the crowd, in their one chance to show that it wasn't just that they were a bunch of assholes that were seeking attention, and it was the Roman Reigns push, they saw that there was a clock that was obviously counting down the 30 minutes. So they decided to... count along with the clock, as in every single minute, like it was a Royal Rumble, they were going 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then when the WWE got sick of it, they decided to take the clock off the screen, which led to the audience violently booing and chanting for the clock to come back. Just...
Yeah, they will troll. I mean, they just will. To be fair to the crowd, the audience often do kind of deject, and they want to almost attack the WWE. Their most popular chant when they want to kind of piss off the brass is CM Punk, which you know kind of gets my blood boiling a bit as well when I hear, you know, the crowd cheering for a man that doesn't care about them.
No.
Let's be quite frank about that.
Yeah.
It's CM Punk was tuning in like, lovely wrestling podcast. What?
Oh no, you know what I mean. It was like, oh, let's see what these smarks are saying about me. Thought so. Back to UFC.
Oh no, he's no, he's not.
He'll keep trying, well, no matter how many times he gets knocked out. But anyway, but yeah, I mean, I'm saying this like I would have any chance in UFC, but yeah,
oh yeah, except you know, I have the smarts to know that I should not compete in UFC.
I suppose that's one way of looking at it.
I'm not going to do a slow motion spin kick to some professional fighter.
But yeah, this has led to a debate where some people are saying that the crowd are being assholes and trying to take over a show, and the other people are saying that it's an entitled, that the previous argument is entitled, that the crowd had paid their money as well, and if the WWE were actually providing a good show, people wouldn't be making so much of a fuss. But the thing is, it's kind of weird. I've been watching the other wrestling shows recently, like Lucha Underground. The people, they'll be quiet moments, sure, but they'll be fully invested in it. The one time they actively attack a match is usually where they were heavily invested in it and they didn't like the fact that the heel won. They chanted that was bullshit when Johnny Mundo won his cage match with Sexy Star by throwing her mask off, which, yeah, that felt pretty cheap, so yeah, you can understand them being pissed, but otherwise they tend to generally be behind the audience. They generally tend to be behind the performers, and I kind of figured, okay, well, maybe that's just because it's an indie show, and same with NXT, it's an indie show, there's like a small local group that always goes there, but then you have stuff like World of Sport, which I watched, and these are a bunch of people who probably, there's a bunch of people from elderly couples to young kids who probably have no idea who these wrestlers are. And yet, the atmosphere for that first episode was amazing. The crowd were going ecstatic over literally everything that was happening at times. So, you even have Progress, which actively, another indie show, Progress Wrestling in the UK, which sort of actively encourages people shouting out comedic chants.
I will say that Progress has current WWE NXT talent working with them. They may well be implicit in that.
That is true. But yeah, the Progress also has a thing where audiences can shout out comedic chants, but as they say at the beginning of every match, what's the first rule of Progress? Don't be a dick. So you've got all of that. So I'm just kind of wondering what the hell happened to WWE audiences where they are so focused on just taking over a show by chanting for literally anything other than the performers going on. Like, is it just a thing when WWE has not been producing a good enough show? Because I feel like, because I feel like there seems to be some kind of weird mindset in WWE fans that that's what you do when you enter a big show.
You know, WWE has tried to condition its fans. When it comes to times like the Raw after WrestleMania, they're like, oh my goodness, the crowd are always crazy at the Raw after WrestleMania, and then never again. But for me, where it's really struck a chord, and the problem is we're not in a live audience. We don't have that energy that the crowd have at the time, and that's where we suffer because the time it's hit me the most is at Royal Rumble. And thankfully it wasn't so bad the last one, but the two before that, oh man, where the crowd is so disheartened that the person they want to win is not winning, they are deliberately going to sabotage the show. And it's just like for myself, the Royal Rumble has always been an event that I look forward to. It's a chance to see all of the wrestlers who you probably won't see together, and a chance to have some surprise appearances. Like that's when AJ Styles materialized for the first time in WWE, and I remember looking across to my brother saying like, I've heard AJ Styles is going to be in the WWE, I reckon that's his music, and he's like, no, and there he is, and it's quite a moment that AJ Styles is in WWE, and holding his own against their boy. Even though the cameraman did think that AJ Styles' entrance was not as interesting as Roman Reigns' face.
Yeah.
The camera stayed on that. That'll always be something weird and funny.
Yeah, it's this very weird thing, because, yeah, like you, I always enjoy the Rumble, but it's this, really weird thing where it's like somehow the WWE have accidentally created this them and us attitude. Because there was one moment when I know you personally are not keen on this wrestler, but I did like one fact where it seemed like there was one moment recently in the past couple of months
before he says anything, I am normally very careful not to say anything bad about any wrestler or commentator. So you might notice, guys, that I was very flattering to anyone that we were burying earlier.
Yeah.
Shoot.
that is fair. That is fair enough. Like, obviously, these guys are more talented at this stuff than we'll ever be. We're just sort of more times we're commenting on how they're presented rather than the actual people. But yeah, because
exactly.
I mean, I don't have any problem with Roman Reigns. Like, he does actually seem like a cool dude off the mic. It's just that his push have been having problems with as of late. But yeah, I know you've had problems with the way Lana is portrayed, but
okay, good shout actually. So we'll quickly talk about Roman Reigns. I don't like the way they're shoving Roman Reigns down your throat. I like what he said recently, which was really funny actually. On one of his recent promos, he said, "I'm the big dog, learn to love it," which was very odd. Which was very odd for a face to say. Wasn't that strange? It's like Vince McMahon was telling you, like, eat your Roman Reigns. Eat it. Well, I don't like it. What if I sprinkle it with a little bit of Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins? Will you like it then? Oh, okay. It still tastes like Roman Reigns. Eat it. Eat it. Learn to love it. But Roman Reigns, he does a lot of good in-ring work. And he wrestles, every other night. Not quite as many matches as Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose wrestled a lot of matches in a year.
Yeah.
Tons and tons of matches. He made a lot of money. But he wrestles, every other night. Sometimes they have him on 2 times a night. There is that Royal Rumble, which I'm talking about, where the crowd sabotaged it. He wrestled for over an hour. Over an hour he's wrestling. And still the boos reigned in. But, so it's nothing about the guy. It's how he's represented. Lana can't wrestle though. But my kind of complimentary sandwich where I sort of bury it in between 2 lovely slices of bread. My little bit of sandwich is that she can't wrestle. You should always go after him. She's in a position where she can, if she really wants to wrestle. Sure, okay. But I would say Lana has a very good image, and she's very good at promos. I don't know why she's the accent. Admittedly, the accent was not very good. I can't say anything about accents. Listen to any of my accents. Listen to any of my accents in anything. Like listen to my half-orc, for example. You know, wow. But she is much better at being. I'm not saying a valet, because that's an outdated term. A manager.
Yeah.
She's much better at being a manager, and I mean a manager like in the sense of Bobby Heenan. A proper manager, not coming out there and doing what a valet would do, where you just stand there, look pretty. They're doing much better with that sort of representation now. You've got people like Zelina Vega, who I believe on SmackDown, which I haven't seen yet, is going to have a match with Lana. Anyway, they're doing much better with managers. I don't know what they were thinking when they broke up Rusev and Lana. It was a winning combination. It was gold. All they had to do was come out and say, Russia's better than your place. And it was gold. I don't know why they ever did that. They shouldn't do that. It was perfect.
Yeah, but speaking of weird breakups, basically, the one time, just to get back on topic, the reason I brought up Lana is that there was one time when I was really liking it because, okay, she was in a match against one of the Iconics, I forget which one, but she came out and the audience...
What were they wearing? Peyton Royce and Billy Kay. So, like, one of them's got, like, I believe Peyton Royce has, like, a Poison Ivy type persona, or did, I should say. And Billy Kay had, like, a sort of... I don't know what her persona was, kind of like an enchantress, where she had, like, long flowing gear. And now they just, like you're suggesting, they do dress similar now as just kind of Australian duo.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, Digicon. Sometimes I want to just mute the audience. Sometimes it's just like, hey, you know what? You know, I don't need to hear them. I wish I could do that with commentary. Wait, I can.
Nice. But yeah.
I will actually quickly say, talking about commentary, there was to the WWE YouTube, they uploaded a match between Triple H and The Undertaker in the Hell in a Cell, where they took the commentary off, and it was really good to watch it without commentary, without people telling you what you should be thinking.
Wow.
But I think they did that just because it was such a well thought out match between two veterans. But it was, you know, watching wrestling without commentary is very good. So it makes you think maybe I should, you know, don't hear the commentary. But you know, I'm seeing on another random tangent that my thing says started streaming 2 hours ago. Again, that could be taken in time for technical difficulties. We did have a couple of hiccups. You know, it's a new stream. But
mine says
that is going to mean that we are
157.
technically on our. We're somewhere around our third hour, which means one thing, and that one thing is my one word for this hour, and it's ropes, because you bounce off the ropes in a wrestling ring, and the picture we have has 4 ropes.
See, I thought I corrected that.
I warned you about this on the thing, but it's
Yeah,
funny.
I
We
did.
worked it in.
The annoying thing is, I corrected it in other images. I don't know why it's not here. And your joke has killed the stream.
For
Congratulations.
those of you, it actually it's like it's like the Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare cover, where you see Zombie John on the cover. It's been sitting in front of you this whole time, but you haven't noticed it. the 4 ropes. You know, Captain Picard is saying, there are 4 ropes! If anyone gets a Star Wars reference. Star Trek reference, sorry. I use Star Trek a lot to annoy Star Wars people, so I keep mixing them up.
But yeah, get back to the topic. The reason why I brought up the whole line of it is because she was getting up against one of the Iconics, and as the crowd, one of the irritating habits the crowd do is that when there is a female wrestler who's connected to any other male wrestler, they'll start making chants about them. So they were all starting,
oh, yeah.
Rusev Day, Rusev Day. But then, what I loved is that Aiden English was accompanying her to the ring, and he made this into a microphone and held up a placard saying Happy Lana Day, which the crowd got really excited about, and then started fully chanting in earnest Lana Day, which actually managed to get Lana over as she lucked out on a victory against victory against one of the Iconics. And I was thinking,
yeah,
this is good.
I mean,
you have actually managed to take a common crowd problem, turn it, and make it so that they actually get behind the babyface they're supposed to be getting behind, and this is awesome. WWE should do this more often. Realize where the crowd's going and guide it back. But then they never did it again. They've been actively trying to break up Rusev Day, the storyline, ever since, and they've also added fuel to the fire for that because, spoiler alert, Selena Vega defeated Lana in pretty much the same way.
I never had a doubt. I mean,
but pretty much
it is clear as a boxing ring has 4 ropes and a wrestling ring has 3.
Oh,
I knew that. I knew that the 3 count was going to fall for Selena Vega because there is no way a talented wrestler. She wrestled for Impact Wrestling previously, by the way, and she's a very talented wrestler. There was no way she's going to take a loss to Lana.
Unfortunately, the way she won her win was the exact way. The exact way Rusev lost in last week's SmackDown. But yeah, long and short of it is, they seem to be trying to break up Rusev Day, and following that, the first thing they decided was a dance-off with Naomi, just out of nowhere. I don't know what you were thinking.
My understanding is that it is the same reason why we've been seeing Bayley and Sasha Banks come together. So they actually picked a really good name for their team, which was the Boss and Hug Connection. And I was like, that's a really good. I like it. I don't care what you say. I like it. It's a good name. It gets everyone's member berries. I remember Rock and Sock Connection.
Okay, see, I didn't get the part. I just thought it was just the Boss and Hug Connection just sounded really goofy to me. But yeah, carry on.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than anything Coach came. Like, what did he call it? The Dolph Train or something that he wanted Drew McIntyre, and Dolph said to be gone. Just call it. Be honest. Just call it Team Drew McIntyre. But anyway, I was saying that they've been pairing the women superstars together as teams because speculation, and this speculation leading up as well to the I think they're calling it Evolution, the all-women pay-per-view.
Evolution, yeah.
Because, they already had the all-man pay-per-view, which was the Greatest Royal Rumble. Yep.
Yeah, that's fine. But yeah,
I was just saying, the YouTube freaked out from your comment then, Digicon, but it's okay. The YouTube robot was like, what? That's not a nice word.
It's kind of like when they have to beep out Roman Reigns using that word.
Yeah, exactly. But Roman Reigns has kind of adopted that as being his thing.
Yeah, I don't get it
because he's
either.
a big dog. He gets to call people. But Brock Lesnar suplex. I never swear myself, so I'm trying to sort of avoid. But he just said it, and the crowd started to chant it, and it became a T-shirt.
It's just, I don't know. It's this kind of weird thing. I think. But yeah, what I was getting back to is that the WWE, in fact, actually, now that we brought up Roman Reigns, that's a good example of it. The WWE seem to have this really weird. The part of the reason why I wondered whether it's, on the one hand, the audience seems to be asking for attention, but on the other hand, the WWE seems to have created this weird us and them attitude, which is like, yeah, you can chant for the wrestler you want to get over, but we assume that you don't know what you're talking about because, yeah, you may boo Roman Reigns, but he's marketable. Don't you understand?
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, WWE has been making more money than they ever had. The aforementioned Greatest Royal Rumble had a lot to do with them making a lot of money. They made a lot of money over there.
Yeah.
Enough money to pay all of the women who weren't there as if they were there. Enough money to have pyro on that show. So they made a lot of money. And what I was saying earlier is there's going to be a women's tag title coming up. At some point, it was speculated. That's why they're pairing the women teams together. That's why Lana and Naomi, I think, are being sort of soft paired together. It's probably going to be a tag title between both shows. You know what? That's fine. Weren't we supposed to have a 205 Live tag title quite a while ago? Where's that?
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it at this point. Because. But yeah, I guess to try and bring this conversation to a close, I think it's a sort of weird thing that this kind of these seems to be these two conflicting weird attitudes where the WWE believes that the audience doesn't know what they're talking about and they can tell them how to think, versus the crowd believing that because they've paid for a ticket, they can just take over the show and chant whatever they want. Like, I get it, sometimes you're bored and you want to show it, but I'm chanting "We want Celtics" during a Roman Reigns Bobby Lashley segment because there's a Celtics poster in the background. That's just pathetic. I'm sorry.
Yeah, at least they're being they're being a bit better behaved. They've stopped being as disruptive during women's matches. That I found quite disrespectful. That thankfully, you know, with the acquisitions of superstars like Ronda Rousey coming in, which I always said is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. It adds credibility to the roster. It's the same as picking up, you know, a big male talent. It makes the roster seem more presentable, and it sells it to the people. They're being a bit more respectful on that front. The crowd still just randomly say, you know, Rusev Day all the time. You know, I watched the chanting Rusev Day at his concert. You know, I actually really like Elias's kayfabe album. For like beginner blues album, if you will. Before we began, like, I reckon I could get my guitar to get through the microphone somehow, and I can do the stuff like, you know, Blues 101. Play it with more than one finger when he played the basic blues riff.
Oh, jeez.
Anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
I really do like Elias, though. I really like, legit, his character is gold.
I do like the fact that they've just embraced the fact that he's there to rile up the crowd, and that's the point. That's when you can generate some good in-character heat as opposed to just heat for no reason other than existing, which is what Roman Reigns appears to be in right now.
Yeah, I mean, WWE, like you say, hates the... I think we've touched on this before, that Ty Dillinger is not being used because the crowd were chanting 10 all of the time. Hates it. So Ty Dillinger's career has actually been ruined by the crowd's reinforcement of him. You know, he probably didn't want another Daniel Bryan case.
And they're trying to do the same thing with Rusev Day as well. They keep flip-flopping their mind back and forth because Rusev Day sells merchandise, but they don't want the crowd chanting it. So they're trying to do this really awkward thing where Rusev seems to be trying to break up with both Lana and Aiden English, although they can never keep it consistent.
Yeah, you know, I would say that the Rusev Aiden English rivalry, which is definitely going to result in Rusev winning anyway, would kind of like definite SummerSlam pre-show match. But then on Raw, I saw that Mojo Rawley is messing with the glorious one, Bobby Roode. So, you know, the fight for the pre-show match begins.
Yeah.
Who will have meaningless match when no one's in the crowd? Well, actually, probably to, you know, a silence because nobody's in the crowd.
Yeah, and especially when the pay-per-views are getting longer and longer and longer, mainly so that they can say, look how many hours people have been putting into the WWE Network, which, no, just no.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, with WWE potentially getting some competition for Ring of Honor and New Japan, if they move into that same time slot, which they should do, to answer your question, Tiddy-Con, hopefully that competition, akin to the Monday Night Wars of old, will spur them on to actually make good content.
Yeah, or at the very least sync things up.
NXT, I'll always say NXT is the show to watch.
Yeah.
Because it is very well produced.
Yeah, well, I think that's actually the thing. I'll just sort of... it's kind of getting away from the original question, so I'll just leave it on... topic, rather. So I'll just leave it on this final point. I think the competition will be good because WWE they're kind of getting complacent that they kind of like having this status quo where everyone just sort of stays in the mid-card. The top guys, they all feud each other occasionally, and they keep building up to the next pay-per-view and fueling more money. SmackDown does have some good storylines for now and then, but generally they're kind of like this sort of status quo they have. But the thing is, they kind of like this sort of status quo they've got going on. I think if they actually had competition, then they would not feel the need to be safe, because I think the reason why NXT, the reason they're going above and beyond, is because they're working with unnamed talent, or at least talent that has not been shown on the WWE, and they have to work hard in order to promote them and get people behind them. When they come onto WWE, the main writers just go, no, who's this Bobby Roode chap? Oh, okay, you know what, we'll just give him a catchphrase, use him to fill space, and then, yeah, we'll be fine. We've got no reason to actually have him do anything exciting, so why not?
Yeah, I mean, Bobby Roode has always had that kind of Ric Flair vibe to him, which was especially prevalent when he worked with Ric Flair in Impact Wrestling. And they've just kind of turned him up to 11. Unfortunately, it was a lot more over on NXT than it is on the roster. We're yet to see how they can develop with him, but it's as good a use as you can use a veteran for. He's probably the forever enhancement talent. So we'll see. I expect him to be... I expect him to put over Mojo, but what else can you do with Mojo? He's where Adam Rose is. You can't... where Adam Rose was, I should say. You can't repackage him a bunch of times and expect something to work. You know, you give him a big accolade, like the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale, and then he's still, you know, fighting to get on the pre-show.
Yeah. I mean, I believe you on the first episode you said about him, and I quote, "You're 30, man, you're 30, you're not hyped, I can see it in your eyes, you're tired."
I will again compare him to Adam Rose, where Adam Rose, you can look in his art party time all the time, because he does not want to be this gimmick. So, you know, the eyes are the window to the soul is what they'll say, and you know, it's good now he's a mean dude, but I don't know what you do to fix a character like that. You can't just do the let's go more intense, because eventually you turn into a rolling tornado of knives and blood, and you can't go anywhere from there. There's nowhere to go.
Oh god. But yeah, that I think we're getting too far off the original topic, so we might as well move into our final topic for tonight, which is the SummerSlam predictions. And we end it with MVL dropkicking me for forgetting to remove the third rope on that image. But yes.
Well, it's going to be, you know, it's going to be leave the fourth rope on rather than remove the third.
Oh god, you know
but
what
I digress. At any rate, as we alluded to earlier, when we kind of panicked on the it's not on, like it's like really out of sync. There you go. And ironically, the picture is of me drop kicking you.
Yes.
In a boxing ring.
Moving on. So, SummerSlam predictions.
I don't want to jinx it talking about the sync because it hasn't buffered in a while. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway. We're doing alright. Let's talk about SummerSlam. SummerSlam predictions. And we're going to start at the very low end of the card and kind of climb the ladder up to the top. Although it's a reluctant top because of what we know to have transpired on that end. But at the very bottom, at least as it stands now, because there may be matches added or matches removed, we're looking at he's either the heart or the soul of 205 Live. It's Cedric Alexander against Drew Gulak, who is no longer akin to the PowerPoint presentations, although I love that. They could have kept it going. He felt like a natural turn and face, which I kind of feel about Elias at some point down the line. He's getting like rock, rock heel heat, where he's starting to like, people are like, we kind of like him, you know. But we'll see where it goes. I can't really pick a winner for this. I'm gonna say Cedric Alexander. I want it to be Drew Gulak because he's such a badass in the ring.
Yeah.
Drew Gulak is a submission machine. He's back to that almost walking torture machine gimmick, but I feel like Cedric Alexander is probably going to hold on to the strap. I call it a strap and not a belt. Come get me, WWE. He's probably going to hold on to it as they continue to try and build the legacy. I wish they would introduce the tag titles. They're having a lot of tag matches on 205 Live, and it doesn't mean anything. It's like they have a lot of women's tag matches, but there's no point because there's no women's tag titles. So, you know, it's like... it doesn't really matter. Not many people are watching 205 Live, so it could be either of them. It's probably going to be Cedric.
Yeah, it's probably going to be Cedric. I mean, I do like Drew as a heel, and I also like that brief moment when they were combining his torture machine gimmick with the PowerPoints. There was I forget who was going up against, but there was this one time when he brought up a PowerPoint presentation. it was 2 slides, and the question was, I'll just call him John Doe for the sake of it. It was, why did I break John Doe? He clicked it, and it was just a single slide saying, because I can, which I just thought was a nice way of incorporating the 2 gimmicks. But yeah,
I mean, to say what Microsoft, that in particular, but the use of PowerPoint, is that I can't cruiserweight to see what he does next.
Oh god, but yeah, Drew Gulak is now. It will be a really good match, and they've been having a lot of fun with it. But yeah, personally, I think it's probably going to be Cedric Alexander because he's really hot as a babyface champion right now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's probably going to be defending it against TJP down the line, or someone like that. And that's probably where they're going with it. Next up on the block, again, I'm not sure about the positioning of these matches. This may not be where they come in, but we have a triple threat match for the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship, which is, and this is not a surprise to me because I have read the SmackDown results, so I know why this has transpired. It is Carmella versus Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair. So Charlotte Flair's back from her injury. It's not quite. I won't go into the reasons why she was away, but she's back, and okay, she busted a boob. There you go. She's back. You know, I mean, Alicia Fox, you know, broke her ass and couldn't be in the couldn't be in the Royal Rumble. That must have been bad.
Or the tailbone, as they put it.
Yeah, you know what I mean. That was
I know.
At least Charlotte Flair is back in time to make a splash, and man, did they move her back into title picture really quickly. And so quick, in fact, that she came onto SmackDown Live and had the opportunity to, you know, the same that Becky Lynch had, except that she hasn't been winning matches all the way up to this and kind of hasn't earned it. But Charlotte Flair is going to be, if you beat Carmella, you get to be added to the title match. And she did, so we have this triple threat. So we've got the very much underdog here, and probably the fan favorite. They had a poll, an independent poll about who is the most underutilized superstar in WWE, and of course, the number 1 pick was Cesaro, but the second pick was Becky Lynch. So she's still very underutilized, and yeah, I do actually concur that Cesaro is probably the least, you know, potentially used to his maximum superstar that exists right now. But yeah. Becky Balboa, as she would call herself in the kind of Rocky mantra she has going on, you know, the Irish lass kicker. It is very much the underdog. Adding Charlotte Flair to this really has me thinking different things about this. You no longer have the kind of James Ellsworth entity in the match. He's been fired. He never was under contract, so he's out there. And so will Carmella retain? I foresee a potential of Charlotte Flair taking this strap and then building up a rivalry towards a bigger show between Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. You know it's be a good match when it comes down to it. And Becky Lynch really needs kind of the spotlight that has been deservingly coming her way right now. But then where does that leave Carmella after all of this time and all of her accolades? You know, winning Ms. Money in the Bank, I think is what they called it, even though James Ellsworth won the first one.
Anyway, right.
So my pick, it's going to be Charlotte Flair.
Yeah, Charlotte's probably the most likely one. Here's the thing: some people have been saying that it might result in Becky Lynch going heel. Because she did look kind of disappointed / upset when Charlotte won the opportunity.
I feel like she's way too likable to go heel. Charlotte Flair is a natural heel.
Yeah.
As a Flair, just a natural heel. Charlotte Flair is much better as a heel.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. This may sound like a tangent, but I promise it's relevant. As we pointed...
That's alright, I have strayed from the path many a time.
As we've mentioned, WWE have announced the all-women's pay-per-view Evolution, which will be taking place sometime in September. As someone who is a fan of progression and equality, social justice warrior, if that's what you want to call me, I think that this is a really good move. I think it was an important step for women's wrestling. I don't trust WWE to do it well. I really don't. And this whole thing kind of exemplifies why, because you've had Becky Lynch, who's been working really hard as a face, and she has been so underutilized that even when she finally gets a title match, but even if she doesn't win, she still has that moment where she gets a big one-on-one match with the SmackDown Women's Champion, and then they undermine it by throwing in Charlotte in there, because, hey, she is the much more popular, much more athletically gifted, and much prettier one. So, of course, she has to be added into this mix. And then you have Carmella, who I don't know what to think about her as the champion, mainly because they've been so inconsistent. Like, she could beat Charlotte clean, therefore she is she's credible in that sense, but she needs James Ellsworth to stop Asuka defeating her. It's like, they can't make up their minds whether she is a credible champion that uses underhanded tactics, or a joke champion that has to get other people in to stop people beating her up, you know?
Well, I mean, to be a credible heel, you have to use heel tactics, and that's pretty much where Ellsworth came in. Ellsworth was a great swerve, I think, but unfortunately, he didn't maintain a contract for himself, and I do feel for him because he is very much the underdog coming in, and for him to be on WWE is fantastic. And, maybe we'll see him win the belt at WWE Evolution.
Yeah.
Because he seems to be the first to win these things. That's in October, by the way.
Oh, October, yeah,
when that does come around.
Yeah, this is the thing. I understand that, but the thing that's kind of bugging me is that they're inconsistent about what kind of heel she is. Because it would be one thing if it's why I was mentioning about the whole Worldwide Underground versus the Snake Tribe thing, in that there are different heel tactics you can use. Like, Braun Strowman was often portrayed as a heel because he is monstrous and he will do anything it takes to win. He will smash you into post, he will knock you around. If he then suddenly started cheating by having someone come in and run interference, you'd be thinking that was a strange turn of character, because he's not the type of person who relies on that. And that's basically what I'm getting at with Carmella. They can't really make up their minds on what type of heel she is. Is she just someone who can wrestle but is incredibly disrespectful, or is she someone who can't wrestle and has to rely on other people and cheap tactics in order to win?
Well, it's interesting because wrestlers wrestle differently when they're on the main show. Like, what is what they want to call it, the main show.
Yeah.
But Carmella would do outside dives in NXT. She did like 2 suicide dives in the match. Hasn't done one, to my knowledge, on the main show. And to that point, I mentioned Alicia Fox earlier. When was the last time you saw Alicia Fox do a moonsault?
That is true.
Never. That is, so they're very selective on what they let their women wrestlers do. And it's not as if they're saving this sort of stuff for a big pay-per-view. They just don't want them to do it. So we'll see. Digicon's picking Charlotte Flair. I approve. Although he wants, like we all want Becky Lynch to win. My if I had money for this bet, but I would never bet on wrestling because I was going to bet. I would have bet my life on Sting to win at WrestleMania. And since that point, I am not going to bet any match. I'm going to go with Charlotte Flair.
Yeah, unfortunately so. And I guess the next match of the pre-show, well, none of these are confirmed yet, but I guess quickly, Mojo Rawley versus Bobby Roode. I would want to say Bobby...
That's not even on my list. Actually, I feel like for the viewing audience as well, that's not even on their list. I suspect that's a pre-show match, and really, it doesn't matter who wins it.
Yeah, everyone loses in the end.
I foresee, and I hate to be negative about this, but I don't see anything happening for Mojo Rawley. To be blunt about it, Mojo Rawley He'll be lucky if he can reinvent himself again, not into a torrent of bloody rage, but into something that could connect. Then it might work. But he's currently with Rosebuds right now, and where No Way Jose is, ironically, where you're like, wow, what are we doing with this guy? So he's struggling, and then. So my hope would be that Bobby Roode would come out in that match, which is most likely on the pre-show, by the way.
Yeah.
My hope would be Bobby Roode comes out victorious, glorious victorious, and that would move him maybe into the Intercontinental title reign. Bobby Roode, about transformations of character. Bobby Roode is a great heel. Just let him be heel. Like, I think maybe the WWE is a bit confused because of the entrance, so he's got a face entrance. If they turned him heel, they would probably change his music because they don't understand, like, people can cheer a heel. But Bobby Roode should probably be in that area. So I would say Bobby Roode.
Yeah, he's probably the more likely of the two, although, as you mentioned, no one's going to win overall in the match.
The
next
match,
of not winning, I suppose also we may have SmackDown's pre-show match, which would be Aiden English versus Rusev, and possibly Lana in the mix. It's not clear.
Oh, okay. That is also not on my list. In an ideal world, Lana would maybe come to the special referee, but then that would have. I thought this about an NXT event where they had the Women's Championship going between Nikki Cross and Shayna Baszler. Shayna, by the way, comes across way more legitimate than her bigger star Four Horsewoman, but comes across as like a very good heel. And I thought that they had a mix-up with Dakota Kai, and I thought Dakota Kai would have been a perfect special referee for this, because Nikki Cross kind of, in her crazy mind, came into the ring, beat up Shayna Baszler, and told Dakota Kai to count, and thought she was the champion. Why they couldn't make it, involve all the participants, make a special referee match, I don't know, because Dakota Kai didn't go anywhere from that. But I digress. I would say that if they did it really well, Lana could be a special guest referee, saves her being out on the apron or in commentary, doing not much. Special referee, you have the here's my friend, I guess, Aiden English, and then, I don't know how to feel about my husband right now because he doesn't want anything to do with anybody, but he's my husband. So that would be a good dynamic. The only dynamic I could flow into the match that I know Rusev is going to win.
And then, finally, what was the first match you were going to bring up?
Oh, the next one on the list that I have here, which will definitely be on the show, is Dolph Ziggler versus Seth Rollins for the Intercontinental Championship with Drew McIntyre, Team Drew McIntyre, who's going to be there. And he's going to be, if you've been watching Drew McIntyre recently when he's on the apron, he's not content with being on the apron. He's moving in like slow motion, like some kind of like super villain, slowly and nefariously moving around and cold and calculated. He'll grab the rope and sneer and look away, overacting everything. And I'm like, yeah, I get it, man. You really want to make the most of your chance here, but calm down. When you're not in the ring, keep the attention on the ring. You don't want them looking at you when they should be looking at the ring. That's bad.
Yeah. I think in this case, I want to say that Seth Rollins is going to win because he's getting this big. He's actually one of the baby faces that's actually over with the crowd, not even with an asterisk next to them like some other.
Oh yeah, Monday Night Rollins should continue. I mean, they gave him in a gauntlet match a win over John Cena and Roman Reigns, and they failed to capitalize because they don't want to put him in the top tier. But I think Seth Rollins belongs in the top tier. He carried the company when he was a heel champion for quite a while. The IC title has always been thought of as a stepping stone. Honestly, I kind of think it as the Miz's title. And without the Miz near it, I feel like it somehow loses any semblance of value.
I think Seth has actually done well with it so far because he's actually sort of made it feel like a big deal. This whole Ziggler and McIntyre thing, they've actually have felt like a credible threat and someone they could go up against. I would say Seth wins, but this is the thing I'm unsure about because there are two possible ways this could go. One of the rumors is that Dean Ambrose is gonna come in, and that will shake things up, and everyone will be that will shake things up because he will be the counterbalance to the fact that McIntyre is on the ring, and he'll be able to run interference that way. The second,
That's a good shout. I've heard that he is on the mend.
The second possibility is that Seth Rollins wins and Drew turns on Ziggler because we know that's coming at some point. It's nice that they're having this little team together, but we know it's not going to last forever.
Yeah, also, they've been kind of dangling the title in front of Dolph Ziggler to just say, please resign, please stay with us. They really don't want Dolph Ziggler moving to greener pastures, in the kind of sense that Chris Jericho, with the Intercontinental title, is breaking records now, because he's had the most reigns, and it's with the Intercontinental title from New Japan Pro Wrestling, and WWE is not happy about that. They, I think they were fine for the one match, but the way it's going, they are not happy with it.
And the fact that he's also showed up. Look.
Yeah, if I was to pick anyone for this match, it would be Drew McIntyre, but I can't pick Drew McIntyre because he's not supposed to be the focus of the match. He's just there, even though he has beaten the champion like the last bunch of times they fought. I predict Seth Rollins.
Yeah, it's their weird. It's this incredibly weird thing they have of where you can beat the champion, but that's not, unless it's a title match, you can't actually get the title. And
yeah, and if I had to fantasy book this now that we're live and I can make predictions and see them possibly transpire before the events, I would say that because I've made some doozies in the past, and I'm like, damn it, but. I would say that maybe Drew McIntyre, like you were alluding to, attacks Dolph Ziggler immediately after he loses and just thinks, I'm not being associated with a loser.
That could definitely be another way for it to go.
Yeah, and then goes after the title himself later on.
Also, on a side note, I will say one small thing just for WWE. If I was a fantasy bookie WWE, I would get rid of the Champions Clause thing just because it leads to really predictable pay-per-views. Because if you want the face to go after the title because they feel like they've been ripped off, have the GMs get actively involved and give them the opportunity, like when Daniel Bryan was the GM and he had the Money in the Bank ladder match again after the James Ellsworth thing.
Well, you know what's a funny title clause? The no-compete clause, which is what the Universal title was made without, apparently.
Oh, God, yeah. But we'll get into that in just a short time. First, we have to look at one of the other matches. Kevin Owens versus Braun Strowman for the Money in the Bank briefcase. And as Digicom perfectly pointed out here, Kevin Owens is naturally a great heel, but he might be out of his depth in this one.
Yeah, this is very peculiar to me. Very peculiar indeed. Because if we are looking ahead, we are seeing what I believe to be a definite title change coming up. But what's happening with the Money in the Bank contract then? So something is going to have to happen in this match to remove the Money in the Bank contracts from the conversation. Because otherwise people are going to get the kind of flashbacks to Seth Rollins coming in, cashing in, and taking the title. So the way I see this playing out is that Kevin Owens, because he's a great heel, is going to find a way to get Braun Strowman disqualified and win the Money in the Bank contract. Then Braun Strowman is going to be Braun Strowman and continue the assault and take Kevin Owens out. So then there will be no Money in the Bank contract to be used later in the night.
That could very easily go that way, because that is kind of the way they've been going. I kind of wish... This is the thing. I would actually be okay with that as an idea. I just kind of... It's unfortunate that it's connected to one of my least favourite feuds, because it kind of just shows... the bizarreness of WWE logic sometimes because, well, Braun is a great character in the sense that he's just this insane comedic giant who can do literally anything, almost like a cartoon character. But the thing is, he's essentially hounding Kevin Owens because Kevin Owens tried to make an alliance with him once.
Yeah, I mean, the kind of face-heel dynamic here is really weird. So we're supposed to be cheering this monster who is terrorizing Kevin Owens. And admittedly, we're supposed to hate Kevin Owens for his past deeds. But really, he hasn't done anything except try and survive his altercations with Braun Strowman that anyone else would do in that situation. Regardless, the way I described it is how I see it happening, and that's how I think they're going to remove the Money in the Bank from the equation. And then Kevin Owens has more use of the Money in the Bank contract. Braun Strowman can be booked into a title situation at any time. They can just say, look, here's this giant dude. He came out and attacked the champion. Now you've got to deal with that. Versus Kevin Owens, who is more sneaky, and they may do that thing where he runs in with the briefcase all the time to kind of threaten it. When they do actually have a champion that shows up, it's a little awkward that they didn't do the Mr. and Mrs. Money in the Bank, which I thought they might have done if Alexa Bliss had got a hold of the Money in the Bank contract.
Oh yes, she did, but
kept hold of it.
Yeah,
very smart in how she handled it.
Well, I think they handled it because they didn't want Nia Jax or Ronda Rousey to lose that match, so it made sense for.
Funnily enough, they have harked back to their mixed match partnership because they filmed extra stuff for it that they never used. Because they had a lot of fun doing it. So we'll see. Maybe at some point that'll come up again. But yeah, I see Kevin Owens winning.
Yeah, I think Kevin Owens, I think for the same reason, like, I like Braun, but I think what they will probably do is have it so that Kevin Owens wins through sneaky means, and then, like you said, that will take the Money in the Bank out, that'll take the Money in the Bank out of the equation, so that even if Braun manages to beat Kevin Owens and get it back in a following match, then that will at least delay the inevitable when someone uses the Money in the Bank to take the title off Roman Reigns.
Exactly, and whatever is going to happen in the main event, I feel like they're probably going to want to protect it, especially if they want their own boy to come out on top. So I see Kevin Owens winning. I agree, Digicon. I'm very behind Braun Strowman now. He went from an inexperienced wrestler to someone who's very proficient in the ring, and the excitement is that you never know what he's going to do. So he will do all kinds of crazy stuff. And that's his appeal.
Like, he's going to be the champion no matter what. Although, I mean, I have seen some people think that he will still get the Universal title and be the new Brock Lesnar. So we're going to have WrestleMania 35 Roman versus Braun, and then make that the big crowning moment for him. Although, that said, they're also throwing in rumours of The Rock versus Roman Reigns as the main event for next WrestleMania, so we'll see.
Dear. I mean, my fantasy booking for The Rock is for him to have a sort of... It sounds cringeworthy to even think it, but a musical rivalry with Elias. two of the most notorious wrestlers to play an instrument. I will give them that. Squaring up against each other and eventually coming to blows. I think if they bring back The Rock, they really can't. They probably will, but they shouldn't put him over. That he should be used to put someone else over.
Yeah, my fantasy bookie would be...
He shouldn't beat Eric Rowan in like 30 seconds like he did last time.
Yeah, my fantasy booking for The Rock would be that he either comes back as a GM/commissioner, or he just retires and enjoys a luxurious movie career and doesn't come back. Because like you said, every time he does, he's great, but it's always him that gets over, not the poor young star who does still have to work at WWE literally every single week.
Exactly. I mean, talking about Eric Rowan, we could move on to the tag. Although you didn't have your choice for the this match.
It'll probably be Kevin Owens, like you said.
Fair. Okay. So there was a man who was also a monster among men until he was buried by The Rock. Eric Rowan, or just Rowan now. because, you know, like Elias Sampson, last names are hard to remember. So WWE has forgotten Luke Harper and Eric Rowan's last names. The Bludgeon Brothers have hammers, and their title gets to be on the show, not like the Raw Tag Team Championship. But we have a potential number of teams here. We have the New Day, and or it could be who? It could be the Bar, Cesaro and Sheamus. And to be honest, I'm not sure if it really matters which one it is, because the Bludgeon Brothers have been booked extremely strong. They've beaten the New Day and the Usos together in a match that was supposed to be a freeway that ended up being like a 2-on-1 tag match. I don't think it matters. The fresh team for them to fight would be the Bar. But how fresh would that be? They've been booking the Bludgeon Brothers so strong that I'm not sure who's supposed to take them out.
Yeah.
Although the SmackDown Tag League is very stacked with tag teams, unlike what we're seeing on Raw. But I can't bet against the Bludgeon Brothers, whoever it is they fight. So I'm going to say them.
I mean, unless they decide to abandon the breakup Rusev Day plan and had Rusev and Aiden English going up against them, but even then that would be a bit of a stretch.
True.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with you. It doesn't matter. The Bludgeon Brothers are still going to go ahead. I mean, the Bar coming out nowhere to beat them might be cool, but then again, the Bar would have to also fight the lack of credibility after they were completely jobbed out on Raw and at WrestleMania. Oh my god, don't get me started on WrestleMania, but...
Yep. Yeah, I can't see it going any other way than bludgeoning.
I suppose we should mention the Raw Tag Team titles, but again, it doesn't matter. No one wins.
It's straight up not going to be on the show.
Oh, wow.
It's just not. They don't have room for it. It wasn't on the last bunch of pay-per-views. It was on the last one, but until they do like another final deletion, I really have no interest in whatever they're doing with the Raw Tag titles. I like that they're building up new teams, but we know that Vince McMahon doesn't like tag team wrestling, so the show that's closer under his eye, which is Raw, it's always going to be maybe a pre-show thought. Hopefully it will see some more notoriety if we do see 205 like live tag team titles. If we do see a women's tag title, which we really got to see another women's title come into play. But there you have it. I mean, the Bludgeon Brothers are going to win this match. But Vince doesn't care because he doesn't like tag titles. And then you move on.
Yeah, speaking of women's titles, there's the Raw title, which is going to be Ronda Rousey versus Alexa Bliss.
Yeah, funnily enough, I predict this to be pretty much the penultimate match on the show. I see this. Then again, they've swerved this before, and a match that I think is going to be at the end comes at the front. They did this on the first SmackDown Live pay-per-view. They had, the big match at the start, and then the rest of it sucked. But this match I predict being towards the end, probably after the WWE title match. They're going to probably put that earlier on with AJ Styles and Samoa Joe to, rile everyone up and get everyone excited. But yeah, Alexa Bliss, on what I'm looking at here, it says with Mickie James, but she's injured. She's just... swapped out a Mickie James for a Alicia Fox, one veteran for another in WWE's eyes. Alicia Fox has been tweeting stuff to Ronda Rousey's man, I think, to try and get some heat, but, it's just one person being swapped for another. That token, I'm a heel, I'm not as strong as the person I'm fighting, I need somebody to run interference.
Indeed.
And that's if Alicia Fox doesn't get used as something to put over Ronda by having her arm broken at some point.
And you can tell they swapped the script because they described Alicia Fox as a trailblazer, despite the fact that she's only just come back.
Yeah, and then of course against Ronda Rousey, the rowdy Ronda Rousey, and it's going to be a good match. Ronda's come along very good in the ring in the short time she's had.
Yeah, she's been one of the things I've unironically enjoyed about Raw as of late. Like, even when Alexa Bliss became champion again, which I thought, oh come on, there are so many other women better suited for that role, or at least who deserve a shot of it. I mean, well, then again, I guess I suppose she was the best women's champion. I guess it's not like there was another former women's champion who is also a really good heel that was involved in the Ronda Rousey and Nia Jax feud, and was also in the Money in the Bank ladder match, who could have made a perfect betrayal opportunity to have made the feud more personal. Don't know who could have fitted that role, but anyway.
This is all gone over my head, Jonan. I don't know what you're talking about.
Natalia.
I know, I'm just playing. Natalia will be getting a match with Ronda Rousey down the line. My prediction is that they're gonna do the very predictable, because Natalia has gone between face and heel so much. It was honestly surprising to see her be a face just off the bat. Whenever Ronda, which may be in this event, does get hold of the title, Natalia is going to turn tail on her like a cat. And with the cat persona, and Natalia is going to come after the title. Natalia will look legit because Natalia is a veteran, and Ronda Rousey will look legit because she's a legit fighter. So that'll be a good match. I predict it's going to come towards the end of the year, towards the Mania time. I feel that Natalia may or may not get another run, maybe her last run with a title at some point down the line. But yeah, Natalia is going to be in there, so fear not, Jonan. Like that is, I feel, probably set in stone.
Yeah.
Where about tonight, I don't know if it's time to take the title away from Alexa Bliss, but Ronda Rousey is big news. I think putting the strap on Ronda Rousey is probably big news if she does. If she doesn't turn out like Brock Lesnar and can't make the shows that often, which is difficult when she's a movie star, and but she is on an actual, not like Brock Lesnar, she's on a proper contract.
Yeah.
So she will show up a lot more.
And from what I've heard of her talking, it does seem that she is actually infused and does like working in the WWE and is enjoying her time there. So even if
everyone seems infused in the honeymoon period.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. But yeah, even if it's just for a short amount of time where she is like Brock Lesnar, when she turns up when it's a big deal, that I wouldn't mind. It's just that with Brock Lesnar, they dragged it out way too much and he started showing less and less. So.
Sure. And my pick is going to be Ronda Rousey. I think they want the ratings for having her as champion.
It would be good, although I suspect it's probably going to be Ronda comes close and then some shenanigans happen, which means either Natalia or Alexa Bliss will have the title instead. I think that's where it's probably going.
Okay. Or perhaps James Ellsworth.
Anyway.
There's one last before we get to the more controversial match. This is the phenomenal Mr. Impact Wrestling, AJ Styles, versus Samoa Joe. It's like you're watching Bound for Glory or Slammiversary. It really is. AJ Styles, I keep saying it, I would have never thought in my dreams AJ Styles being on top of WWE, but here he is with a title with some actual lineage, not like the red belt, which was just pulled out of the ether. And you have to respect this new red belt. It's really important. It's your champion of the universe, your master of the universe. About a handful of people have held it, and it's only been around for a couple of years. No, the world title is where it's at, even though they won't call it the world title anymore.
Did you know
it's had its it's had its old territory roots, and it's had a combination of not the real WCW title combined into it, but their version of which.
Also, did you know Finn Balor never lost the Universal Championship? Sorry.
He never brings it up. I think he might have been the first, but that would have to be on him to say it a couple of times. Do you know what? I can probably say he's not big enough and will probably never touch the title again. I'm surprised he's not on 205 Live. I don't know what they're doing not using the demon gimmick. It's a merchandise machine. It's as if they're trying to sabotage him themselves.
I think it's more that they had that one bad feud with Bray Wyatt, and then they decided, people don't like the demon anymore, which is, no, we like the demon, it was just, that was a stupid idea.
The reason. It's funny, because the demon was the reason why Jeff Hardy wasn't painting his face, because he didn't want any conflict with makeup. But, Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll see the Demon back. I think the Demon will be back because of toys. There's another potential match we haven't talked about being on the card, which would be Baron Corbin versus Finn Balor again. And my prediction for that is yawn.
Yeah.
But, and that's not the snake from Resident Evil 1, that's just a yawn. Yeah, but as far as the WWE title, as they call it, match goes, honestly, it's going to be a fantastic match, very technically proficient match with two fantastic wrestlers, not superstars, wrestlers. You know, wrestling's a dirty word in WWE for some reason. You got to call them superstars.
You don't even call it a wrestling show. Like, did you see what they called the show during CM Punk's trial?
No idea. Sports entertainment, I'm guessing?
No, even worse. They called it, and I quote, a live-action movie event. I'm not making that up. But yeah, unlike many of the other matches I've been saying, this is a match where everyone wins no matter what. If AJ Styles wins, it makes him continue his very dominant champion streak. If Samoa Joe wins, it's going to put him over as a very credible friend, which he's been having a real good heel run as well.
I would like to see Samoa Joe get a title run. I feel like Styles is going to win, though. He's so hot right now. It's crazy that they haven't, because there was talk quite a while ago about bringing him to Raw, to have him fight Roman Reigns, and really he would make Roman Reigns, look good, because he makes it. They say that a man who can wrestle a broom, and I'm not calling Roman Reigns a broom, but AJ Styles could have a fantastic match with a broom, and it would be amazing because he's AJ Styles. So I think he's going to win. And then probably down the line, Randy Orton's going to move up to this rivalry. I mean, there's also a potential, US title thing going on with like Shinsuke, Randy Orton, and Jeff Hardy, but you don't know whether that's going to make the actual show.
Yeah, and I did say probably Randy Orton because they've been making a whole big thing about him coming back as a new legend. Him taking on the audience favorites, basically.
Yeah. And then that do you have a prediction for this match?
I would say I'm probably leaning towards AJ Styles, but again, everyone wins no matter who wins this match, I feel.
That's fair. And that just leaves us with one match left that's on the card. and that is the match that everyone's been waiting for. And everyone's super excited about, that you've never seen before, like a bunch of times. And yeah.
Okay.
There's Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, and for the Universal title, the Masters of the Universe, and they've really, really tried again to try and make you dislike Brock Lesnar. They've done all of their work they possibly can to make you feel like he doesn't care about the product or the fans, or even his advocates, or anything like that. He's gonna, he'll beat up his own manager. It just makes him a little bit cooler. Like there's no way the fans are not going to boo Roman Reigns. You can't make the fans cheer Roman Reigns in this match. You had a little bit of success when people thought Brock Lesnar genuinely didn't want to come, but you ruined it all by making it look so fake.
Yeah, I mean, okay, credit where it's due. I did actually like how that story unfolded on the Raw, where, like you said, Brock Lesnar ended up choking Paul Heyman, but
and attacking Kurt Angle, because everyone attacks Kurt Angle. I mean, Ronda Rousey attacks Kurt Angle, they're still hugging the next time they meet each other.
But yeah, you had to understand, she was pissed off at Alexa Bliss. But anyway,
perfectly fine.
Yeah, but yeah, two things I would. But yeah, the thing is, the part of the reason why it doesn't work is something. Both you said it and Chris Jericho said it, is that WWE seems to think that a guy who beats up other people in the ring, that automatically makes them a heel. But as Chris Jericho pointed out, they're ass kickers. That makes them look more appealing in wrestling. You have to do something utterly despicable if you want to get genuine heel heat, and not just booing because
Brock
of the push.
Lesnar, I mean, I imagine on the next Raw, Brock Lesnar's going to F5 a puppy, and he's still going to get cheered over Roman Reigns. It's not going to matter.
Yeah, but either way, I would like to make it, Vince, if you're by any chance listening to this, I know what you're thinking, and don't. For God's sake, don't do the swerve. I mean, yes, everyone's predicting that Roman Reigns is going to win this and get the title, just like they were predicting that you were going to do it in, just like they predicted that you were going to do it in WrestleMania. And yes, Brock Lesnar can be a decent draw. He does feel like a good star, so yes, it would be nice if you could keep Brock Lesnar. But don't. For the love of God, don't. Just give the title to Roman Reigns. Don't try and swerve. Don't try and outthink the cheat sheets. Don't. Just give the title and get it over with.
Really, because I'm predicting no interference from the Money in the Bank contract. Really, it's been the way that we've predicted Roman Reigns, and it's probably been slowed by the crowd reaction that Roman Reigns is heralded and destined for that championship. Just get it over with already. Just give him it. And then, like, Brock Lesnar, he's really expensive. He's definitely going back to UFC. There's no point holding on to him. You've done everything you can. Just give the title to Roman Reigns, and then he's going to be on there every week. You can have a title, even if it is a stupid red belt that has no legacy. It can still be defended. And Brock Lesnar saying, "I've been champion longer than anyone else." Like, how many title defenses have you had?
Exactly. It's this thing that I know you want to try and make it seem like a bigger event, but here's the thing. You've lost that chance to go. You might have been able to make it a big event at WrestleMania, but you blew it. You blew it up because you wanted to be clever and do a massive swerve and have Brock artificially break records, but you've now completely killed it. No one is excited to see this. Just get it over with, hand the title over, and then we can move on and start actually getting people more excited and feuds again.
I am terrified about the crowd's reaction to that match. It's billed as the main event, but I can safely see them maybe not putting it as a main event so that it doesn't kill the buzz at the end of the show, but maybe it has to be at the end so that, the crowd can walk out halfway through it, and then they can just fade to black, and then dub in their cheers afterwards.
Yeah, because there's not much else to say. I mean, there's nothing that's kind of damaging Brock, because there was a while when you could have gone away with it, and he was being sold as that. And Digicon's pointed out that maybe the turn on Paul Heyman will have him interfering, and that might be a good way of protecting Brock.
That's an awesome prediction, Digicon, by the way, of Paul Heyman interfering to help Roman, because he's the new Heyman guy. I really wish they would make Roman Reigns. I really wish they would just finally pull the trigger and make him heel. And he just really needs it.
Yeah, I think they're going with the direction that he's like a heelish face, as in he's borderline but not quite. I don't know.
I mean they're doing the thing like, oh, there's no such thing as faces and heels anymore. Yes, there is. You can pretend that they don't boo Roman Reigns all you want, and you can pretend that doesn't matter, but it really does. You could keep kind of beating your head against the wall and going, no, it's fine. You can boo our top guy, it's fine. But yeah.
I am no real prediction, because I'm terrified that Vince might do the opposite. But yeah, just, from heart of hearts, please just give Roman Reigns the title so that we can move on. We can then see if we can build him as a credible champion, or have a new heel go after him. And maybe Brock can come back in like a once-in-a-lifetime encounters if you really wanted to be a big draw. But just enough's enough,
Yeah, I mean, my prediction is Roman Reigns, but then I predicted Roman Reigns the last bunch of times they fought. It's still Roman Reigns. We know he's getting the title at some point. It might as well be SummerSlam. He's getting the title, and it's gonna happen. And then maybe he can defend it on the show. But that's where I see it.
Indeed. And with that, that comes to the conclusion of our first ever live Flip the Mic. Thank you for putting
and conclusion is my last word for this hour, because we have concluded the podcast.
Oh my
I
God.
can't even do it. It's terrible. So thank you for watching, everybody. A special shout out to Sven the Crusader and Digicon. You're amazing, Digicon. Thank you. And thanks for the questions, guys. You guys have been wonderful. Thanks for joining us. This is the Journey Monkey's first live stream.
I know.
I mean, you know. And yeah, so this was really fun to do the podcast live. You know, we're gonna wrestle with this as we go, and we're gonna beat out we're gonna beat out all of those kinks, and we're gonna come back stronger than ever.
Indeed.
So thanks, guys. I've been MVL,
And I've been the Journey Monkey. See you around. Mike Flip.
and I'll see you next time.